then immediately segues into a real estate conversation. Non sequitur.
Let's have another scene on the roof.
Yeah. She used to have a bunch of guys, and then she ended up being beaten half to death in a hospital on Guerrero Street. What a story, Mark. Like, apparently,
sounds to me like you're the expert.
Oh, God.
And also, like, they were trying to get Tommy to say, like, to not laugh creepily through that, and he just kept doing it.
Anyway, we're live. Hey, guys, how's it going? Good afternoon. Hope everyone's having a great Thursday. It's kind of humid here in Toronto, but we're keeping cool, having a beer, having some water, and trying to get through a 25-minute video from Cosmonaut Variety Hour on It's Okay to Like The Force Awakens. I think before we even watch this video, we can say,
yes,
in general,
yes,
it's okay to like The Force Awakens. I think we can all say that.
You can like whatever you want to like.
I think that's...
The problem is when you start saying it's of quality, then we say no.
Well, it's when they start explaining why. Then we have, our mind starts turning on going, wait a second, why do you like John Williams all of a sudden? Why didn't you like him in episode 5 or 6? Because it's pretty much the same stuff. So, aside from Ray's theme, which is new. There's a new theme.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's a nice little. Is it a flute? What is that? A clarinet? I can't be sure. Not a musical.
Something like that.
Very original.
I think it's a flute. Yeah, it sounds very
nice and subtle, as opposed to Kylo's blah 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 blah.
As a radio, you are terrible at making music sounds.
That's okay.
Yes.
That's okay.
I would have thought that would be your specialty, but you're crap at it.
We're going to get him a soundboard of like every...
I do need a soundboard.
Yeah.
A radio using a soundboard. I thought you were the soundboard.
No, I'm the sounds. I'm an okay singer.
Well, that's good. You can do some... what would they sing back in the day? Was it show tunes or... American Grandstand?
Absolutely.
Yeah, American Band, or what are they called?
Their voice. You need to sing your own intro now.
Oh, no.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey.
Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime.
It's ragtime. There we go.
Baby, you're just my wild. Baby, my heart's on fire.
There we go.
I think
Refuse me, honey, you lose
Glib
me.
muting himself and deafening himself was the right action to go for.
Yeah.
Hi, Glib.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Oh, hi, Glib.
Hi. How you guys doing?
We're doing splendid, honey. How are
you guys excited?
doing? Oh, we are so excited.
Fucking kill me.
All right, then, let's get on with it, lads.
Yes.
Shall
we were.
I don't like Star Wars. It's for nerds. You're all nerds. So I don't like you. You have bad taste in movies, and I don't want to be friends.
Nerd!
We were all about to do this yesterday, and then we realized we weren't organized, and we weren't sure what to do. And then I got a headache. I was like, okay, forget about it. We're doing it later. And then we just did it today. So, yeah.
I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Rogers for welcoming me into his neighborhood all those years.
What?
I'd like to thank the Academy.
Shut up, Glib.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's nice. Good to know. All right. So, yeah, let's get going. We're all in the watch together. We got a super chat from Skids. Thanks, guys. Thank you again. No problem, Skids. We love your recommendations. We have them all listed. So I don't keep track of who gives what, but I know you've been giving a lot. So thanks. Appreciate it. And let's get going. Cosmonaut Variety Hour.
Star Wars The Force Awakens is
Oh,
the
God,
worst
that's gonna get us
movie
copyrighted.
ever made.
Oh, got
At
him!
least, that's what I would say if I was a fucking moron. If you go on YouTube,
Ooch.
you will see countless videos complaining about The Force
That's
Awakens.
I remember
Everybody
this
likes
video.
to complain
So,
about this
just
movie.
from the opening, I remember this because this was sort of like started the wake of. It wasn't popular to dislike the film, yet but it was starting to go there where people were starting to wake up and say, actually, this film's quite terrible. And there was like quite a few videos that I started to watch before this and said, okay, yeah, they're making some really fucking good arguments. And then Cosmonaut jumps in here trying to quell the rebellion, saying, no, it's fine to like it. I remember this video.
Well, it's a 2-year-old video, so it's
almost as if you can like something but still pick holes in it.
Exactly. You can like all sorts of B movies, all sorts of silly, pulpy stories.
Human emotions are complicated if you're a fucking moron, Cosmonaut, but we're not, so...
Starting
I have a
things
friend
off,
who...
not very good.
We both really like Venom, but we both pick it apart to shit. Because that's a lot of problems.
I really enjoy The Hobbit.
I enjoy The Hobbit too. There are a lot of problems with The Hobbit, mostly pacing. I think the plot mostly makes sense. But there's like little like niggles that I have here and there.
I guess we could say about myself, the entire BioWare company as a whole, the people there, the things they make, the things they release on their blog, Twitter. I mean, everything is just sort of so disappointing. But I still love the company. It's Canadian. I gotta promote it. It's like, hey guys, Canada, we're making games. We're good at stuff. We got Rockstar.
It says, unironically, you get BioWare Montreal producing Mass Effect Andromeda.
Yeah, well,
that's not good.
That's
shame upon your entire nation.
This is
dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow.
Yeah, all the Canadian dairy, just throw it out the door.
Yeah.
We do have some good cheese, though. That's true, but not in Montreal, as far as I know. Anyway, Nathaniel Larson, thank you, sir. EFAP 100 meme trailer brought me here. Well, thank you so much, Nathaniel. I don't know why I had such a large role in that trailer. What the hell? I had like at least 5 seconds.
Like 5 seconds.
Yeah.
It was actually a clip from a Smudcast where he said, looks like we have a full house tonight.
Yeah, that was weird.
But yeah, we're not included in it. You could have included the Smudcast, whoever the fucking meme was. You didn't. You could have had us in the background. It would have been fine. Come on.
We're not important, Shiny.
Well, I'll take my blast at that guy's face and I'll see how important he is then.
We're not that important.
Okay. Got another one. It's okay to like TFA. No crap.
Wait until the Empire reigns over Earth and destroys EFAP.
Would that be...
Sorry, did I say that out loud?
Who's the Emperor? Movie blob?
Oh.
Secretly, I'm the Emperor. I've been every voice inside your head.
Oh, boy. That's...
Wow. You've been the voice of Katrina Law, Ina Law, Chantal Van Satten, and a bunch of other attractive women in my head. That's impressive.
Yeah. I am a very good ventriloquist.
There's a joke you'd only get if you were done.
Well, you were in quite a few of the early EFAPs, weren't you, Smud?
Just 1 or 2. It wasn't that much. I was talking
the Major Lee one, weren't you?
Sorry?
Major Lee.
I remember you in that.
Yes.
Major Lee and the Movie Bob plot holes video.
Yeah, those were pretty memorable and scary. So it kind of troubled. when you're doing something that long with a live crowd and you're analyzing something and it's so dumb and long and you're sitting there through it, it's kind of like going to school, like a lecture hall, and it's like a 3-hour lecture or whatever, and it just goes on and on. The guy's so boring. You're just like, oh my God, what can you pull out of this? And it's just crazy stuff. So yeah, it was fun, but it took its toll. And I would do it again once in a while, but not, I wouldn't be a regular. It really is a lot of effort to take away your schedule for the weekend or the day or whatever you're doing. And luckily Mahler can do it because that's his, he's got breaks, he's got his lifestyle going, and that's cool for him. But I'm happy with 3 hours with you guys. That's good. I can do it. So
what do you think he does, like, for the other 12 hours of a day when he's not EFAPing?
Hibernate.
Yeah. I can only assume he goes into some kind of hole.
Or he operates a small seafood restaurant in
Lincolnshire.
People walk into his seafood restaurant and he goes, "Hello there, ladies and gentlemen."
Yes, exactly. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen.
I want to imagine like Mola does like the one of the worst
name is
jobs
Monroe.
imaginable. Just like he works behind the cashier, and just every time someone walks in, it's like, "Hey, can I buy this?" It's like, "Hello there, ladies and gentlemen." It's like, I just want some donuts.
Yes, that is the ultimate Walmart greeter. That's what Mahler does. Yeah,
That'll be
hello,
great.
ladies and
It's
gentlemen.
like,
welcome
yes,
to
I'd like some
Walmart.
hobnobs. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Did you say that all the
Welcome to
time?
Walmart.
Yeah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen.
So, and just makes merry
No,
mayhem.
no. It's not.
Yeah,
It's the
skeeters.
UK. We don't have Walmart. We have Tesco.
Yeah.
And Lidl.
Who owns Tesco? Is that Walmart or is that Aldi?
No.
Tesco's is its own thing, I think.
Yeah, Tesco's his own thing. Aldi is was it German or
I remember the-
Austrian?
I love
I remember-
all these.
What's the other one?
Ow. There's loads. Sorry, I
Tesco's the biggest, and it's.
no,
but
I spilled my beer.
I think Tesco owns a couple
Alright.
of brands in
Yeah,
the US, but it's named something else.
Asda is owned by Walmart.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
I didn't
Yes,
know
it
that.
is. Yes, it
Well,
is.
Asda's a piece of
Walmart owns
shit.
a shit ton
I
of
remember.
stuff.
I remember going to Walmart for the first time. My friend was showing me around because, like, the idea that you can buy clothes and washing machines and food all in the one place was like new to me.
You know, it's
Was-
funny to me.
was it-
It's not that weird. It's what's weird is how it's presented. So like you're in one building. It's all Walmart, but
Yeah.
really what they did was they just took over all of the economy of a town because they had all this money
I
behind them to
just-
do all these
I
things.
remember
It's
my
like
friend
Amazon.
was.
Amazon.
My friend was.
Go on.
My friend was leading me down the aisles, and she was just like listing them off. It was like, so here's your clothes, here's where you get your kitchen appliances, and we walked past an aisle. She went, here's where you get your guns, here's the the
Yeah.
dairy aisle, and I was like, whoa, what? Wait a second.
You know,
Yeah,
the
that's
most
America.
magical moment in America I had in America was walking past an aisle and seeing flex tape
gun.
for real. Seeing flex tape.
I thought you were going to say the gun aisle, because the idea that there are just sort of there's just an entire
No.
corridor dedicated
This
to
is-
guns, and you don't even have to like get someone to
Well,
open
and-
up a cabinet or something. So you
In
can
this
take a
place,
look
it
at them.
was. In this place in Colorado, it wasn't like that. Everything was behind cabinets, so you couldn't actually just go and pick it up. It wasn't like an aisle. It was just like a stall in the middle of Walmart. And that,
Oh no, no. The Walmart I was at, it was like they were hanging from the
yeah, but I suppose it just
the
depends
shelves
on
like
where you are.
clothes. There's
The-
there
the
was just
most-
a guy stood at the end of the aisle who's like keeping an eye on you to make sure you don't walk out with them. And obviously none of them are loaded, thank God. But it's like it took them 45 minutes to tear me away from there, because it was the weirdest thing I'd ever experienced, because that is not a thing in England. It's like, here, buy your guns. It's like,
I love it.
No,
That's the most amazing thing was flex tape. It's like this great land, this
Well, no, it's
giant
because-
land of freedom and everything. Oh, flex tape.
oh, we
no,
only know-
it's because
God
flex
damn it.
tape was meme to shit, and
we
I
only
like,
know
really enjoyed
flex
the
tape from
memes.
the memes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my god, flex tape, it's a real thing? Oh my god, I'm holding some flex tape. Come on, take a picture, I'm holding it.
This is why we broke away from you guys.
What I remember about stores that used to be in bulk, there was Sam's Club, then there was Costco. But Costco, when I went to my first one, I thought it was gigantic. I went to my second one, I was like, wait a second, this is exactly the same layout as the previous Costco. All the levels, all the merchandise, they're all exactly the same. Obviously, some inventory is different based on stock and demand, but every single layout, how to get in, how to get out, are exactly the same in every location. And it blew my mind. So it's a well-oiled machine in the States, and they just sort of branch out to the rest of the world and bring their efficiency to us, which is great. 'Cause I want, 2 pounds of pickles.
Yeah, that's the best part of Costco is that they do this wholesale thing where you get value out of it. The thing about Walmart and Amazon that I was trying to say is like they're exploiting a loophole somewhere. So like Amazon, it's shipping. The fact that they can get you product faster than anybody else, like right when you want it,
Yeah.
or like 2 days prime shipping. That is the essence. Of
Your prime
their
shipping is
business
2
model.
days. We get next day delivery. Fuck you.
No, we get next day delivery too, but I'm saying that like the idea of getting it now is the point.
Yes.
Because Newegg can't compete with that. Other regular local businesses can't compete with that. And then Walmart, it was always prices because they had so many big distribution centers, because they had access to all this material and they were buying in such large quantities. They could work with the margins, and it kind of killed so much of the small business market that was out there. And it's a real shame. that happened. But on the other hand, you can go to Costco and get, a 6-pack of cows or a 12-pack of computers or whatever. It's great.
Yeah, because that's
14-pack of army tank vehicles. It's great.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because I lived in London for a great deal of time, so you don't there isn't the space to have a giant superstore unless it's like dedicated big mall or something. So I tend to just visit like the corner stores or your typical gadget man. So the idea that you can go into one place, get a pepper steak, get a pint of milk, a brand new phone, a sawed-off shotgun, and a new kettle, and then walk out with a 6-pack of freshly made donuts was like a foreign concept to me.
Well, voice, because I'll be honest with you, that we have a Tesco's here. It's quite big. We live in the country, so space is not so much as a premium.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
See, that's
everything apart from the
UK.
washing machine and the gun, like Tesco's fucking has it. Like kettles, phones, food, clothes, like.
It takes longer than 300 years to build up a country that has the population density of something like the United Kingdom. The United States, the reason why Walmarts are so ubiquitous in like the Midwest and all that is because there's not that much out there. And there's not that much incentive for anything to be out there.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's not much in America.
There really isn't. That's not even a slight. Like, that's actually one of the coolest things when I drove across the country. That was the most awesome.
Look at all this nothingness.
There's a great deal of empty space still. Yeah.
The great thing about America is there's so much nothing here.
Well,
I look upon the land in amazement. There's nothing.
It almost
Holy
makes
shit,
you wonder
this place
why
is a pile of crap.
It makes you wonder why the United Kingdom decided to come here in the first place. But when you're talking about distribution of people that are moving throughout the world, it's always high density moving to lower density. That's just diffusion. That's like a law of physics. So going to Canada and going to America and Mexico is really a nice refresher, because it's like you can go to Australia and deal with all of that nature if you want to, but America is going to be more temperate. You can go
yet you guys are complaining about immigration because there's no room.
No, I mean, people are talking about overpopulation, and that's the joke, is that there's no overpopulation. What there is population density, because everybody wants to crowd around the fire, and the fire is corporate jobs.
It's the city, yeah.
Yeah, so it all makes sense. Like 33% or whatever large amount live in a few locations, and those locations have enormous projection over the rest of the country and power in the world. There's nothing that's out of place. What needs to happen for the benefit of everybody is to take a bigger look at what is available and think outside of the box a little bit. But people like to have the ease. That's what the whole Amazon thing is. They want to go to Walmart and they want to walk out with everything. They don't want to go to 5 different stores. They don't want to shop at 4 different retailers online. They want to click, add to cart, and then be done.
Efficiency.
Convenience and efficiency are what made the corporate structures work so well. After the branding, the idea of branding someone as the best or the ubiquitous, like Kleenex is the tissue paper company or whatever, that is another thing that's a part of American culture that's been a negative, where like,
masturbation tissues.
Well, just the idea of a corporate brand being the version of the thing that you buy is so funny to me, because America, we're so against communism, and yet we have this loyalty to branding the same way that there's like a loyalty to the party. Like, oh, I got to get the Ritz crackers. It's like, why? They're not as good as the other ones. They're not as good as mom and pop crackers. You know what I mean? But people want convenience, or they're forced into the margins of buying cheap crap because the Chinese can make it and drop ship it here. So it's like a weird thing there. I wish that we had a re-emergence of the original American like desire, where everybody comes here and they want to build their own thing, because that's the thing that makes it awesome. What makes it stupid is when you don't have those freedoms, when everything is ordered and yet when you look around, like the countries that have the most laws, that have the most welfare systems or states or whatever in America, like California and all that, we have the tent cities. We have all the problems. So it's like it just doesn't add up. If it added up in a way where
we get back to the Britain versus American banter, that was more fun.
Guys, I'd love to hear more, but we're in a different topic of conversation.
We're in a different topic. We're on Force Awakens. This is the Glib Manifesto.
Thanks, Glib. I'm glad we're getting insight into your mind.
I'm just I've seen all the same things that everybody else has seen. It's like once you've
Glib, you're still talking.
No, yeah, fuck you. I am the interesting one here. I have the information, motherfucker. Say something interesting,
Smud is
Shiny.
the
Go
most
for
popular
it.
one
Go
here.
ahead. Go ahead.
Smud is infinitely more popular than you.
You can talk about fucking how
Come to
England
America,
is
work in
overpopulated.
Walmart for the rest of your life.
Come to America. We're currently on fire, just like always, just
No,
like the
it's
rest of the world.
You know, it's a gigantic country. It's the same thing that people
Glib,
think
shut
about
up.
Canada. The thing that people think about Canada is that it's just
Shut up.
like America and has like the same amount of population, but
It
sweat
is.
can
It's just
intense.
there's more moose everywhere.
No, it's definitely not as like industrially developed or as driven economically to be like America. It has much more European sensibilities.
That is true. That is very true.
Why do several places of both your countries believe they're French?
Quebec.
Because they
and
are.
Parts of Labrador.
That's not the case. They're just living somewhere shit, and it's a reflex action.
There is literally an island that France owns that's right off the coast of Nova Scotia, I believe. So, yeah, we have a whole bunch of weird parts of Canada that people claimed, and we're like, yeah, you know what? You can have that. We don't care. No one wants that. You want that island? You want up north? You want the tundra? Hey, take all of it. We don't even Alaska. That's great.
We don't want it.
That's fantastic.
Alaska was a really, really good trade. I'm glad that we
Yes.
had Alaska because now we we can watch the Russians from our door like Sarah Palin or whatever.
It's great. Anyway, let's get on track here again. Let's get some super chats going, and we'll get back to the video. Here's Coolman229. Thank you, sir. It's okay to like The Force Awakens. No, not you, Marcus. You're not allowed. We're the Star Wars police, and you're under arrest. Well, Marcus has a lot of bombastic statements to make about...
We're going to debunk some happiness.
Well, that's one way of putting it. Specifically to
We're here
18...
to prove your happiness is objectively false.
Well, yeah, I know. We do things like that, but they're not exactly the most accurate. Yeah. Joys of joys with emotions. And here's Taker 610. Shiny, you have seen the U.S. in 2020. We need guns. I think you do. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
I never said you didn't need guns, but then again, I haven't seen America in 2012. I saw it 2 years ago.
Not too different. Pretty much the same, minus the whole
It was
virus
less on
outbreak.
fire 2 years ago. Actually, maybe more literally. It wasn't on fire as much.
Oh, it's on fire. It's got hurricanes. It's got all sorts of things happening
Yeah.
every year. So
Because the Colorado, from what I've heard, is very much on fire, and it wasn't on fire 2 years ago.
I think it was actually. I think it was always on
This-
fire.
This is what happens when you look at everything through the world of the news. And you're not
Specifically,
actually there.
when I went, no, I'm not looking for the world of the news because I'm still in touch with the person I went
you're
there.
saying it's on fire. It's not all on fire.
Well,
What the fuck are you
no.
talking
Okay, so
about?
when I went to Colorado, it was like completely fine then. It wasn't on fire at the time. Today, I mean, there are literally forest fires going on, and they're quite crazy. It's one of the, from what I've been told from a person which lives there, and I'm still good friends with. It's all, like there's a lot of forest fires going on.
Yeah, but there are 3.797 million square miles. How much of that do you think is on fire?
Then there's the hurricane.
A lot if it's making the sun red.
Well,
Not enough.
the hurricane is currently going through, was it Texas right now? Some parts of southern U.S. So this happens every year. There's multiple hurricanes, whether it's off the coast of Florida or southern America. So these are always problems in America, and people live there. They love it. So you got to respect America for going through all this stuff, let alone the actual climate and the political issues and all the societal issues that have been going on every year, as we know. So let's give it up to America for being who they are, and not killing the rest of us.
A drunk son
Yes.
of England that we don't really talk about.
The drunk son of England.
Oh, what do you mean we don't talk about it? We talk about America all the time.
It's the
This is
other
most
son that
entertaining.
we don't talk about.
You're just
The other
bitter.
one is Australia, which we also don't talk about.
You're just bitter that we can go to Walmart and get a fully automatic AR-15, walk out, and then smoke a cigar
I
on
am
the
a
Imperial ground.
spaceman. I have fucking
It was
space.
like
blaster
I'd gone
fight
to
me.
another planet. It was so weird. I just went going back to it. It was just like, whoa. And
Oh
it
my
was
god.
like, it was
Well,
really
not specifically Walmart or America in general, because that was kind of my experience
Both.
going to America.
both, but the Walmart walking in, there's just a gun aisle. I remember because we went in because I was staying in Florida and I was asking. I brought like a bunch of bits and pieces from the UK as like treats, as like snacks and what have you, and I brought my own tea bags. because of course I'd have tea.
You know, I did the same thing.
But then,
Some really good tea. I don't know what you guys.
yeah,
you guys
it was Yorkshire, obviously.
Obviously,
Tea.
obviously.
Yorkshire tea is the best tea.
And while I was there, I was
This is
asking, how do I boil water for a cup of tea? And my friend Chris, she said,
Hot water tap.
no. The hot water ran really slow, and their hob oven was really slow at heating up. So she said what they do is they put cold water in a mug and put it in the microwave. And I was like, nope, we're going to go buy a kettle.
Yeah,
Going to Walmart.
Riley tried to do the exact same thing. I
cannot live here for 10 days under these conditions unless we have a kettle.
This is like 1775, and we're sitting in some Boston tea house or some shit, like some bar, and we're listening to the Redcoats bitch about America. I'm like, just
you
wait,
didn't
just
have
wait until
fucking
they're at
kettles.
it. We're gonna have
me and Boyce had the exact same.
They'll never have a
experience
chance.
with
They
the
can't live without their
microwave.
kettles. This is what's. I'm gonna invade Britain. This is how we're gonna take over Britain, guys. Just take away their kettles.
That's how America won. There were no
Hold their kettles and
anywhere.
ransom.
There were no. That's how America won. They just, when they evacuated towns because the British were coming, they just took all the kettles, so we could only hold the city for about 2 weeks, and then we'd realize there was no way to have tea, and so we fucking scuppered.
They'll have a tea deficiency, and they'll start losing
That's
their
how you guys
addiction
won.
and withdrawal symptoms.
I believe we need sensible kettle legislation.
This has been Walmart and Tesco comparisons with Smudcast.
Yeah. What's better, Walmart or Tesco today?
No, definitely Walmart.
The only difference is between Walmart and Tesco is that Walmart sells guns.
Doesn't Walmart also sell
Tesco,
pets and shit? Like,
Yes, they
It
do.
sells fish. It sells
One-
fish.
The one I was at did guinea pigs and chinchillas and all that as
The one
well.
I was at did not.
it's fucking sick, dude.
You got to pick your own chinchilla and watch them kill it in front of you, so you could take it home. For a delicious rarebit.
Do you want the fur for a hat?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Let's keep going. Let's get the video started. Let's do it.
All right, 3 super chats and we'll get going. Taker 610 again. I blame Rise of Skywalker for 2020. Oh, that's one way to
There's merit to
start
that.
the movie or start the year off with the end of the previous one, watching a movie. Okay, that's kind of sad.
Set the tone.
Actually,
It's set the tone,
Voice,
I guess.
in the comparison between Walmart and Tesco, keep in mind Tesco sells Yorkshire tea.
This is true. I mean,
Tesco
Walmart
also sells Jaffa cakes. It also sells hobnobs. You don't get that in Walmart. It also sells proper fucking sausages. You Americans don't know how to make fucking sausages.
or
What are you
bacon or
talking about?
cheese.
I don't know what you're talking about. I can go to any of the
They're
Italian
shit.
deli. I can go to the Argentinian place and get chorizo. I can get Mexican sausages. I
Here's
can
the
get
thing,
any variety
good
of sausage I
sushi
want.
though. Good
No,
sushi. And
I
and
can get
sa-
good sushi. I can
I
get
found
any kind of sushi
sake.
that I want.
I didn't go to Walmart. I went to his bougie cousin Publix. They do sushi every Wednesday, and they sold bottles of sake as well. That was delightful.
You need to go to Whole Foods if you want your bougie experience. That's going to get you the actual people making it in front of you.
Ah, okay. Absolutely.
Before we turn this into a food cast, I'm going to go back
Are you-
to the actual thing.
By the
we're
way,
ta-
are you
For,
just
for,
as a final thing? You guys are talking about Yorkshire tea by Betty's and Taylor's, right? Or are you talking about a specific like local brand?
Yorkshire tea is in. It's just called Yorkshire tea. I don't
brand.
know. Yeah, it's a brand.
Oh, okay. I can get that. You can get that out here. You can get Twinnings. You can get all that.
It's not the same as Twinings. No.
No, I know. But I'm just saying you can get whatever. It's fine.
It's
The point
just
is
called
that
Yorkshire
we-
tea.
One of the
Taylor's.
things that my father always loved about America, because he would go back and forth between the communist country that his father was born into. Well, it wasn't communist when it started, but you know what I'm getting at. The Balkans was that our cousins would come over and they'd be amazed that we could buy blue jeans just like off the store. So they would go in and buy like stacks and stacks of blue jeans and stuff so they could bring it back to the Balkans, which they couldn't afford to get that stuff out there because of the system. And my dad would always tell me like, oh, you know what's amazing is I can go to any of these supermarkets. I can go to any of the foreign markets, any of the specialty markets, and I can get literally anything I want from around the world. Any kind of weird vegetable or meal that I want. That's the thing that he loved about capitalism. And I think that's the coolest thing about America. A lot of people are saying we don't have like culture or whatever. No, we we have the best of all the cultures. We're like a big best of
Your
remastered
cultural
collection.
appropriation.
Absolutely, 100%. And we make all these interesting things out of
No,
it.
no, but I disagree. You do have
pad
culture.
thai.
You have
we make mac and
McDonald's.
cheese. It's great. We have
You have
McDonald's, but we
McDonald's
also
and the
have
hot dog.
you know how we said like you have Walmart, you have Publix, and you have like Whole Foods. Like there are levels of we have a clear like financial thing where above that there's like the Wolfgang Puck supermarket place and called Gelson's, and then you have even better than that like Bristol Farms, all these different really high end things and lower end things. So you can find a full selection of that, and it's really like living in the catalog. Like you can just go out there and be like, oh shit, what do I want today? I want to get Peruvian food. I can go down to that place because I know that they're there because I'm in Los Angeles. At any time of night or day, I can get Nashville hot chicken. It's like that's the really cool thing about being an American is that it's all around you, all these different things, and you can just engage in it. And everybody's all out there pretending like.
I thought you said America was mostly empty.
It is mostly empty, but I live in the center of the Western populace, one of them in the most populous state in the Union. So
he's a privileged cowboy.
Absolutely, absolutely. I have the privilege of we made it all the way to the West, and I was born in New York City. So it's like the two immigrant towns. I'm aware fully of how that is, and it's great to live in a port city in America with the combination of those rules and I feel like it's produced all of this.
Do the hurricanes agree?
Star Wars
in port cities.
Well, what's funny is that the hurricanes usually hit the same place over and over again, and so do the tornadoes. So people that live in like Tornado Alley, they know what they're getting into. They're not fucking surprised. Glib is a Californian, not a real American. I mean, I can't wait to retire. I'm moving to Idaho, where they have one gun law.
Okay, and while we're on the topic of guns. Everyone needs guns. You there. Yes, I'm talking to you. You need guns, and if you already have some, you need more. The more, the better.
Nice.
Yeah, this is England. We settle everything with knife fights here.
Yeah.
I love 20.
No. Here in England, you have a proper... You do it like men. You do it with your fist.
A quick scuffle.
What do you mean you fucking pussy guns? Go fight me like a man.
No.
Oh, good hit, sir. Yes. Now stand in front of my fist while I
jolly good, old chap. Come on. To me.
Put up your jukes, you vile fiend.
That's how it is. That's exactly how it is. It's not like they're pulling out sawed-off shotguns from 1932 that they found in some northern farm.
Not at all.
Where'd you get that brain gun?
Maybe if you wanted to play a little dirty, you use brass knuckles, but apart from that, no. Fisticuffs all around. I'll fist you,
yes.
Glib. Wait a second.
I
no.
will. If Britain were still like it was in like 1923, I wouldn't have so much ire for it. But anyway, I think we're done with this, right? We did the whole banter thing, right?
Well, we're still talking about guns. So when you give up your guns, you will never get them back. Thank you, Mark and 3D.
True. Very true.
Very good statement by the powers that be. And here's Andrew Clark. Shiny, I live down the street from Saberforge. What is that? Does anyone know what Saberforge is? Anyone?
Saberforge is the Star Wars lightsaber company that makes good stuff.
Oh yeah, I have heard of them. They're not officially lightsabers, but
they're like
called glow sticks.
The higher end.
they call them light blades or something like that.
You expect me to go out there and fight with a laser sword? Face down the entire Thirst Order? All the Pokemon subs?
Thirst Order?
Thirst.
All right.
Is Anna that Star Wars girl, their leader?
No.
Well,
no, everyone, it's Anna, otherwise known as that Star Wars girl.
No. Voice, don't look. They're in our chat. You can't anger them.
I can't even do a woman's voice. So
no, you're terrible at that. That was awful.
You don't want to anger that Star Wars girl fans. They have an ire of hell.
The question is, do I get fiber optic sights for my pistol? Because I need to replace them. Anyway,
I don't know what that means, but okay.
No, you get sights for your fist.
I have a bayonet on my fist. Anyway.
Okay,
let's get to Obama.
We're 20 seconds in, guys. We got a long way to go, so let's get going.
Do this.
likes to complain about this movie. It is the new hot thing to do. The movie's disappointing, it's a ripoff, it's worthless. I, like most people, went and saw The Force Awakens and came out of it pretty satisfied. I'd say that opening day of The Force Awakens was one of my favorite movie theater experiences ever. I had a pretty good audience. This meant that not a ton of people were cheering incessantly and clapping. Really, guys, you need to stop doing this.
Fuck those people.
I was lucky when I watched this movie.
That's never ever happened to me.
I do not understand this mentality. He said you cannot. It's not worthless, but it's also not great. You're not allowed to clap, and you're not allowed to criticize it. Where do you want us to stand, Cosmonaut?
No,
Just
but
sit there, brain in hand.
In cinema, anyone who fucking claps at the screen, I will end you. You are the worst people alive.
There are
I want
things.
you to shut up.
Glibs, just so you understand, there are the three most quietest things in the universe are number 1, being dead, number 2, space, number 3, British movie theaters.
Yes.
Well,
I went to an American movie
in a British
theater,
movie theater is like being dead in space. Yeah, I'm absolutely sure.
It really is. It's silent in there.
Everybody is busy being so respectful they don't want to make any noise.
There is the occasional, like, it's always a woman. It's always a woman, and they're always a couple seats ahead of you or behind you. And this, oh my god, look, it's Captain Marvel. Oh my god about this. Oh my god. It's like, shut the fuck up. I don't care about Captain Marvel. Shut up.
Even that, it's normally like the main character appears on screen and some senile old lady says, "Who's she?"
For me, it's not an old lady. It's just some middle-aged woman who doesn't know fucking shit, or is like just a fan of Captain Marvel. That happened to me in the Endgame theater, and it annoyed me. And I went to an American theater once, and people would not fucking shut up during the film. It was infuriating.
No wonder you guys have to go back for repeat viewings.
You can never see the fucking film the first time.
You can't absorb the whole thing.
That's a very good insight into British movie viewer watching.
It is dead quiet in a movie theater here.
Partly because I kill anyone who fucking talks in theater.
Yeah. There are people in there in American movie theaters who sit down. They don't know each other. They're just like seat buddies for the next 2 hours, and they walk out and they know their seat buddy's cat's middle name and their mobile number and where they live exactly and what they had for dinner yesterday evening. It's crazy. If I did that in an English movie theater, I'd have my throat slit.
Because of all the knives, right? Exactly.
It's like, hello,
I
I'm
like
Boyce.
it.
We're going to be sharing this movie together. And he turns to me, he's like, shut the fuck up.
I like that at the end of.
Who the fuck are you? I don't care. Get out of my face.
Why the hell do you have a
honestly
radio
like
for a
it.
face?
I say clap at the end of the movie so that I know if it was good or not.
Yeah. Oh, sometimes that happens. That happened with Infinity War, and that's like the only thing I can remember in the last 6 years.
It happened with Endgame for me. Like, it was when the moment when Iron Man goes, like, I am Iron Man. That was the only time I've ever heard the theater get hysterical in my 20 years on this earth.
You know, it's like I know the etiquette because there's a theater culture. You're not supposed to clap until the end of the entire performance when everybody comes out and bows. What gets me is not when people clap in movie theaters, even though it's really annoying. You know what I mean? Like at a triumphant moment, it's usually like limited to the climax or the end of the movie. I hate it when people clap after every kind of live performance. Like someone gives a good monologue in the middle of the performance, and then people go, "Woo! Yeah, it's good!" Like, what the fuck? Wait for the whole thing to be over before you break my immersion. Like,
I think I remember, if I recall, people clapped in the movie theater when Voldemort was killed in the last Harry Potter film. Now that I
wouldn't know. I don't watch Harry Potter.
Yeah.
What are you,
good
racist?
shit. Yeah.
I'm
You hate
Harry
the
Potter.
United Kingdom?
Yes.
You just hate English people.
All
children.
people from England have to support Harry Potter because it's a cultural domination.
It's a piece of shit.
Wow.
I thought that England was exactly like
Shiny,
Hogwarts.
we're gonna talk about it. It is honestly, but we're gonna talk about that later, Shiny.
It's deeply
You're
flawed.
he's going to call his contacts at the GCHQ. They're going to pick you up for thought crimes.
MI5 are going to just break down my door.
I do happen to know one of the assistant writers for 2 of the Harry Potter films. So
Oh, there you go. He's gonna come for you. It's gonna be him, some guy in a flat cap with a baseball bat. He'll go, "Oh, Gov, did you talk shit?"
I actually knew
Not
someone
Harry
who
Potter.
did a prop work on one of the Harry Potter films, who worked in one of my schools.
I wouldn't be surprised if you knew
They
Harry
also
Potter.
do
Or somebody
shit.
went to Hogwarts. Do you guys eat butterbeer and stuff too?
I've been to some of the places they shot. Like, do you know the big bridge shot? That was an extension of like an actual real bridge here in Yorkshire, and I went to it.
Don't lie to me. You were in Hufflepuff.
Glib. Glib.
Biz died.
I'm dead. I was
Shut
dead
up.
at the time.
Smud is also dead.
Hello.
Hello, Smud.
Yes, hello.
Am I five here?
I think
We're
we're
just going on these tangents.
after that massive tangent again.
Yes, I know. You guys like to talk.
You guys on this radio show, you guys on this YouTube stream. Why do you
We
guys
need
like?
just a stream where we're not even talking about videos. We just have a chat.
You went from video theater or movie theater etiquette to, I'm not sure. You just kept going. So
It's gonna be the what is it? We'll call it the Revolutionary Warcast, and it'll just be England versus U.S. banter.
well,
Canadians not allowed.
No, Canadians allowed because it's all the Allied nations. No Germans allowed. Germans' opinions don't matter.
Do we even know any Germans? I don't think we do.
I know a few. Yeah.
Yeah, we do. Metal Commander.
Here's the
I
thing.
know a lot of Germans.
Hang on. Here's the question. Would Smud, you get to vote on this? Would Canada be on the British side or the American side? Because on one hand, the Americans are your neighbours, but on the other hand, you're part of the Commonwealth. So
Yeah,
Smud, tell me what's at the heart of a neutral man.
Tell me
What is
about
the heart?
neutrality.
Of a Canadian.
essentially we're pretty much not indentured, but we're kind of like see the England as our mother. So anything that we want to do politically,
Did you see
we have to ask our governor general, and our governor general asks the queen.
Canada?
I'm not kidding.
Canada is like the good kid that Britain is like very proud of. It's like, yeah, see, America, why can't you be more like
how to
Canada?
be more like her?
Canada
Canadians
and Australia are very similar in that regard. So
Because I want to get drunk on moonshine, ride around in my ATV or seat, and shoot off revolvers into the desert sun. You can't stop me, Dad.
Oh.
well,
Video. He hasn't really made any arguments yet.
no, he's just like, yeah, people are excited in the theater. It's like, thanks, that's great, fantastic.
We're only 50 seconds in.
We're going on more tangents than usual. At
Yeah,
this
I don't
point.
know what's wrong with you. Did you guys drink too much? Like, what's going on?
I have.
Well, yeah, but that's kind of normal. But I mean, in general.
How does the radio drink something?
Shut the fuck up. That's why.
Ah,
Do you just pour like alcohol into your circuitry?
He's like Bender. He converts alcohol into
It fuels my power cells.
Yes, exactly. Thank you.
Keep going, shall we?
let's go.
When I watched this movie, I didn't have a lot of disruptions, and as such, I got to walk out of the theater saying, I like that movie. I would watch that movie again.
I don't think there's going to be too many people who are upset by this one.
Then
What is that guy
months
dressed
passed, and the
as?
positive buzz from the first few weeks turned into
Do I think it's worse than
Go back and talk about it
Yeah.
in detail. This
So
is
the thing is-
normal. People
I would
go,
say
hey,
when-
that was a great film. And then like a week or so later, they sit back and go, hang on, was it so great? Let's actually, now that we've had the time to calm down, let's think of it in a more
I
detailed
call it
aspect.
the JJ effect because it
Yeah.
happens in almost every single JJ film. You
This is
walk in,
normal.
it's absolute like cinematic amazement. You're completely distracted. You don't think about it, but the moment you start thinking about it, oh, it's actually quite crap.
Cosmonaut, this is how every discussion ever works. Once you get past your initial reactions and you have the time to think about it more in detail, this kind of conversation takes place.
Yes.
Or you're like me and you just have this
Not even about
constant,
films, it's everything.
you just have this constant internal monologue that's like, what the fuck is this? Why is this happening? What's going on here?
Oh, there are those
Why is
people.
Luke not in here? Where is Luke? Why is Han wearing the same clothes he was wearing 40 years ago?
There are
Yeah,
those
I
people,
was very
and
much-
on the other side, there are people who don't think about this whatsoever and just
Right.
continue to think back on it based on their first experience.
I saw it 5 times and I liked it more every time, and my nose stopped bleeding after the 3rd time. I'm
What was it
fully
ATC
indoctrinated.
chat said that he had to watch it a couple times, and every time he watched it, he liked it more, and he
I have
didn't like
to say,
it.
I watched it
He
3
hated it the
times
first
and I was
viewing.
bored. I was never bored.
He hated it the first time, and then he watched it 3 more times, and then he loved it.
I will report back that the Ludovico technique actually does work.
I'll point out,
brainwash people into liking something. It's good to know. Just keep playing it over and over again until people go, it's not so bad.
I was like what Glib said, actually questioning the film as I was watching it. I never liked The Last Jedi. I never liked The Force Awakens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm one of those.
I watched The Force Awakens just with with a family friend in their basement after I got home from a 2-year hiatus. So
the family friend I was keeping in my basement.
I wish he lived in my basement. That would actually be very helpful.
Video. We're only women.
Be like, hey man,
no, shh.
Let's watch some more movies. That'd be good.
All right, guys, let's keep going.
This movie is.
Here's 50 reasons why The Force Awakens sucks.
I've been planning this video for a while. I'm gonna go over why these complaints are quite frankly kind of stale. Disclaimer.
So by the way, pause for a second.
Fine, obviously.
So I wanted to cover this because I knew that we've seen The Rise of Skywalker, we've seen The Fallout. It's been 8 months or whatever since the movie came out, and we know where Star Wars is now, and we are going to find out how well some of these statements held up.
Yeah, and this is before TLJ as well. This was, I think, before even Rogue One's. If I remember when this video came out.
I think Rogue One was first, wasn't it?
No, Rogue One came after Force Awakens.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Force Awakens was
2016.
What were you?
No, time is subjective.
You were alive when this was happening.
Time is subjective, Shiny. To me, the fucking stock market crash of 1929 was 3 days ago. Okay.
Radio time.
Yes.
Force Awakens was their triumphant return to form that a lot of people loved, and I know a lot of people who love The Force Awakens did not like Rogue One for a number of reasons that are kind of stupid. One of them being Vader is too glorified in this scene.
That's not the general consensus I've heard, but okay. So
it's not then? It's weird, but it's weirdos think that, Alex Shaw and Jenny Nicholson.
Can we talk about how the scrutiny shield has been put up? Disclaimer, we have legitimate problems with this movie. That is perfectly fine. Obviously, the movie isn't perfect. I think it's okay to criticize films. This video is just an attempt to address the various nitpicks and hyperbolic statements made by the film in effort to redeem it.
Yes.
What if I have an illegitimate problem? What is that?
This is all during the first sentence where he swore at people who disagreed.
They're all fucking wrong. Yeah.
Also, he said, "Shut up" to people complaining about the Holden maneuver.
There are no rules. Stop making up shit for you to be mad about.
So yeah, shields are up. We got
my favorite way of looking at things.
It's okay to criticize all films. Part 1, a carbonite copy.
It's the same story with essentially the same characters surrounded by the original characters.
Yes, a scene-for-scene ripoff of A New Hope.
By shamelessly remaking A New Hope.
Now, when it comes to film criticism, I like to file criticism under one of 3 categories. The first is, yes, this is valid criticism. You are correct.
J.J. Abrams is a very, he's a very frenetic, very quick filmmaker. He doesn't waste a lot of screen time. Some of the beats maybe
that's not what I would
missed
call it.
Or I felt were really skimmed over just for the sake of keeping the story going at this quick pace.
The second is, no, that's not valid criticism. You are wrong.
Also, I thought the stormtroopers were all clones of this cold-blooded assassin guy. But it turns out the clones were decommissioned to off-screen, and now these are just programmable humans.
The third is,
it's not
you're
true.
right. But
Wait, isn't there...
it's not that.
Yeah,
isn't
okay.
that
So,
criticism.
Okay, so it's actually it's more of a problem within the prequels that he doesn't really show the clones being phased out. So it wasn't made clear to ER that the stormtroopers weren't clone troopers.
But it was that was never made clear in any of the movies. So
I know.
It's fair in saying that.
It's. I'd say he's putting it on the criticism on The Force Awakens, where I'd say that's more of a criticism between the prequels and the original trilogy than a criticism of the sequels.
Right, but now he's saying that they're programmable human beings, which is part of the TFA pair.
No, but his criticism is that they moved from one to the other without explaining it. But then that's not the problem of the sequels.
I think his criticism is pretty obvious right there.
But it's the way he's putting
he thought that they were clones because there was nothing in the OT that dissuaded him from believing that they were clones. And then now they're no longer clones.
But then again, I suppose it's like you're dealing with an entirely different faction, so why would they use the same soldiers from 40 years
they're pretty much the Empire. But I don't think it's a criticism towards the sequels. It is a valid criticism, just not towards the sequels. That's my point.
Why? Why is that not valid?
Because it's got nothing to do with the sequels. The clones and the stormtroopers in the OT and the prequels are completely separate.
Why? What part of the script, what part of the story makes you think
that? The OT never specifies what the stormtroopers are. It doesn't say if they're clones or they're regular people. We were left during the OT to assume that they were conscripted soldiers from whatever planets the Empire occupies. The fact that the prequels came and said they're clones, they've all been clones, and we can assume that the stormtroopers in the OT are clones. There's nothing in the OT that contradicts that.
The only thing is their voices.
Yeah,
and he didn't change that in 97. So we can assume anything, but the movie does not provide.
Well, even then you've got expanded material.
Because I know I'm not talking about expanding material because I don't think that ER knows anything about the expanding material.
I know
because he was not.
I would agree.
Right?
ER doesn't even like Star Wars. He doesn't care.
Right. So what I'm trying to figure out is how Cosmonaut can say this is the wrong criticism. This is invalid. From somebody like ER who's going off of the movies, which the only thing that would tell you that they're not is that they have different voices as opposed to Tamura Morrison's voice. They didn't change it on. And then also the counter to that is, aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper? Meaning that there's a standard for that, which is interesting. I don't know what that means, but
maybe she was just talking about his penis, but hey.
Right. That's what I always thought.
I think the only thing that would stand as potential criticism is the idea that the clones were created almost 100 years ago, so why would First Order be using the same soldiers?
Well, why wouldn't they use the same process? Why would they choose to brainwash people that are just regular people when they know that they can make clones?
It does. It brings up the criticism of, hey, why don't we use clones? Because they say, hey, we should be using a clone army, and you're like, not right now. So why aren't you, if that is a viable option that you're able to bring it up so casually in conversation?
Yeah, why aren't they using a clone army in the sequels?
But whereas in the OT, we didn't even know that was an option.
The only thing that we knew from the OT, and at the time that they were making it, was when he said, you fought in the Clone Wars? So maybe the clones won, and maybe the stormtroopers are still clones. I don't know. I don't know what I think that there's not a clear answer, which is why I think it's funny that he puts that as his definitive category to strike against ER. Like, oh, you don't even know that the stormtroopers are what from the movies? He only watched the movies. So what?
Kenobi since all before you.
No, it's an understandable confusion on ER's part because again he's only seen the films. But if you if you straight up made like the First Order be a whole army of clone troopers from the Clone Wars, would then be a contradiction with the OT and all the expanded material within the OT. Even though the expanded material is gone, the general idea of the OT was that these were in fact inscripted soldiers.
No, but so we're stuck on the OT.
It then becomes kind of a problem because if you do it one way, if you try and stick to the fact that the stormtroopers were enlisted, or if you try to stick to them being clone troopers, you're kind of fucked either way because someone's going to contradict you.
Well, just pick one, but they didn't pick one. They made it more ambiguous, which is fine. But then the real criticism that ER is enumerating here is why didn't the First Order use clones? And now that like I was saying, now that we're looking back, they have clone technology. They cloned a Force user. They cloned Snoke. So why not clone troopers again? And it's Palpatine who saw the merits of a clone army. So why did not build a clone army 2.0?
There's a difference between cloning individuals and cloning an army. Like it's much bigger scale, and
they have more time.
But then again, you have to have a species which is speciality is cloning, and they have it on industrial scale.
Why not go to Camino? What happened to Camino?
Well, because the First Order is supposed to be like a hit and run organization. That they're very small because they're a
Force
remnant of the
Awakens?
Empire. Well, no, that they're supposed to be. They're supposed to be a small faction.
So another
Palpatine.
thing, another
It's
thing
all
is-
Palpatine. We live in the canon world where this is all Palpatine. So now, this is what I'm trying to say is JJ shot himself in the foot, but not only that, he shot himself in the foot with a rocket launcher. So he blew himself away. Like you can absolutely make the statement, like, why not make clones? Because it's all Palpatine doing the work. Kamino's not gone. The First Order is an organization that's masking Palpatine's return to power now. Snoke doesn't really matter. And there's nothing in TFA that says that you can't build clones anymore.
The problem is that we're arguing over the sequel trilogy, which contradicts itself a billion times. So it's hard to try and argue anything because there's this contradicts it. Well, that contradicts it. Well, no, that contradicts it.
So how is ER wrong? How is ER wrong about Cosmonaut, or how is Cosmonaut allowed to make the statement that ER's criticism is wrong when there's nothing to stop them from making another clone army?
Another issue is that
I think the quote is that wasn't the stormtroopers clones of Jango Fett, and then ER saying no, they're not.
Another issue is
ER is saying that I thought they were clones, and then Cosmonaut is saying no, they're not. That's an invalid criticism.
Right, but he's not. It doesn't explain it.
I know it doesn't explain it, but I think that's more a problem with the prequels and the OT rather than the sequels.
But the sequels had the ability to do anything that they wanted to. They could build another droid army.
But
they could build any kind of army.
I know it's stupid, and I don't think that was ER's criticism, if I remember correctly. Which is a valid criticism to say, why didn't they create a droid army? Why didn't they do this? Why don't they do that? Why don't they do the other? But the specific criticism of, I thought they were clones, why aren't they clones? It's a misunderstanding. It's a reasonable misunderstanding. And they also
didn't explain why. You didn't explain why the stormtroopers are not clones. You can't prove based on the amount of information.
They're called stormtroopers.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean
they're
anything.
called stormtroopers, not clone troopers.
So
and it's established in the law that all the stormtroopers become enlisted and clones are phased out.
In the what?
In the law.
Yeah, but that's the lore.
I know it's I do understand that it's a reasonable misunderstanding on ER's part because ER doesn't.
No, you're saying you're missing my point. You think it's a misunderstanding on ER's part because he didn't read the book that you read.
No, I don't think it's not. It's a reasonable misunderstanding because it's not in the films, and I agree it's a problem because it's not in the films. The problem is that it's not in the original trilogy and the prequels because that's when they phase from clones to stormtroopers.
I understand that, but then the next part of that statement is they're no longer using clones. There's no. Why can't they go and make more clone troopers from Attack of the Clones?
But that's not what ER's talking about.
What is the reasonable assumption?
They bring up clones as an option in Force Awakens, but Hux says no. My men are exceptionally trained from birth.
Why is that better?
And it's like I don't know, but it's like
they don't really. I'd agree there.
What? Go on, Dunn. Sorry.
It's weird because like I think that Glib is actually right because Kylo brings it up as an option. He says it would be better if they were clones, and Hux like flares up and says no, it wouldn't. This is perfectly fine the way it is. And it might even be that like a lot of people assume, and I don't think that they're entirely wrong, that that's a shot at the prequels. There are multiple shots at the prequels within the sequel trilogy, especially in Force Awakens. Yeah,
and what I'm saying is that there are so on all the events that we have and all the available information that we can absolutely say this and this is happening. They had no idea as the writers, as if we were writers, that they had the option. There's nothing in Kamino that could stop them from producing more of that clone.
Oh, that it'd probably be known by the New Republic,
or even find a new host who's just as good as Jango Fett.
Yeah, but that's not what I'm saying. Is that there's nothing there that actually says that. What I'm saying is that you have the space as a writer to decide how you want it to proceed.
Well, I can bring over a very minute thing. I think.
Well, I don't think it's that minute. I think the idea. Look, the sequel trilogy is based on what? It's based on
the sequel trilogy can really build their army however they really want to build their army. It's the problem is that the way they have done it doesn't make sense. It doesn't matter if they made droids, it doesn't matter if they made enlisted, it doesn't matter if they use clone troopers. The problem is that they don't make sense and they don't expand upon it. The original criticism that's all caused this was that ER did not know that they faced clone troopers to stop enlisted storm.
But you're using outside information, Shiny. But it's not in the movie. He's not criticizing Star Wars as a universe. He's criticizing the movies.
The problem is that ER is putting the criticism towards the sequel trilogy. The thing is, the problem is not in the sequel trilogy. No. He's putting the criticism in The Force Awakens. But I think there's a lot of things to criticize The Force Awakens about, and I'm saying that that's a criticism on the films. It's not a criticism on The Force Awakens.
Okay, but in The Force Awakens, what is stopping the First Order from using a clone?
That's not what we're talking about.
That is the second part of his statement. What is the purpose?
But then he's not. Cosmonaut Variety Hour is not talking about the second part of the statement. He's talking about the first part of the statement.
Okay, but he's saying he says that he's wrong without supporting his argument, and there's nothing in the movies, which is what ER is talking about, to say that he's wrong. So you can't say he's wrong unless couching it in the notion that the canon that you read from Legends is applicable, which is not something that ER has read, and is not a movie criticism.
And I'm saying that it's a valid problem that it's not explained. I'm agreeing there. I'm saying that you're putting the criticism towards the wrong area, the wrong films, and the thing is, you can't just ignore the expanded material. But the problem is that it is in the expanded material and not in the films, and that is the point I'm trying to get across. I'm agreeing that it's a problem. It's a problem in the original trilogy of prequels, not a problem in the sequels. And yes, that is the way it is, but it's not explained, and that's the problem. I'm agreeing that it's not explained the problem, and the problem is over somewhere else.
I think another issue is that, Cosmonaut Variety Hour is assuming that ER is making a value judgment of this particular thing, but that is not true. ER is just saying, "Oh, okay, it's fine." I don't think he's saying that it's bad. The ER is saying that this is bad. He's just saying, "Oh, I thought this, but then this has changed. All right, fine. I don't care." And ultimately, that's you could have picked a lot better. He could have picked something better from ER, because I've watched ER as Force Awakens video a couple times. It's actually really good. He makes a couple mistakes here and there, but mostly his stuff is pretty on point.
I mean, they didn't introduce the idea that the troopers were regular people until Solo. Then they would be changed, but that movie wasn't out yet. So
you're talking strictly about in the films, but then the idea was already in the original trilogy that they were just enlisted people.
No, that's what I'm saying, is that it's not. There's only one moment in the trilogy where the stormtroopers, the actual stormtrooper guys, and it's a mistake that one guy in Return of the Jedi has his helmet off. You don't see inside the helmets, and the voices, they all sound kind of the same. We don't know necessarily. Sorry, go on.
I think we could take from all this, if we want to just summarize so we can keep on going, is that even if it's in another movie or a sequel or prequel or tertiary, you don't need all these other sources to tell a proper story. This is a problem with the sequel, specifically Episode 7, of the nature of the stormtroopers, where they came from, how they got there, why aren't there more, how big is the First Order. We don't have all this information. And it's kind of important to get the background.
So we're arguing about different things. Smud, what you're talking about is the world building of the First Order. That's not what I think we're thinking of different things, but we're going around in circles.
I think another issue is just how long has the First Order been around if they're stealing babies and training them from birth?
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense that the First Order even needs to exist if Palpatine survived. Why would he need to hide? Why can't he just stay being Palpatine? The whole story is fucked by the Rise of Skywalker.
Well, it was already fucked.
I know that, but you could have not brought back Palpatine, and it doesn't bring back all of the problems that have to do with tying in the same brain with the person that was in Return of the Jedi. The fact that Snoke isn't the same guy in assumed in The Force Awakens or the Last Jedi, and I don't know, maybe it was Palpatine the whole time, and JJ is just that kind of storyteller. But the idea that it's a different guy, at least his motivations could be different, and he has different information to work with. Palpatine has all of this information from the prequels and the OT and all this. He could be doing any kind of plan, but he chooses to do this. He chooses to clone himself or some random guy that he can force mind meld with, but he doesn't clone regular troopers. The First Order thinks that it's better to kidnap people and brainwash them than have the same clone and behaviorally pattern them the same way over and over again. Even though that technology exists, it's a cascading effect. And that's all I was saying, is that extrapolating from what ER is saying is like here's a problem. This wasn't clear in the OT, and they don't help with it in the TFA episode. They just ask more questions. They bring up more things. They say, okay, here's a guy. They want, more than anything, they want the story to be about a stormtrooper that turns good. That's what they're aiming for. It's like, well, if it's a clone, then how interesting is that? Actually, it is interesting to all the TCW fans, to clone fans, but they're too, pussyfooted to go about that. And the result is that we get this contradictory story about a guy who gets trained all his life, knows all these people, is totally indoctrinated, and then starts shooting them like in a second. He's
a lovable, goofy best friend character archetype.
Exactly. So, I see your point. I also, by the way, just from my personal perspective, think that the stormtroopers are just replaced enlisted men. Like, it makes sense. That's what I wanted from Star Wars. But unfortunately, with the canon stuff, I can't prove that with the movies. I can go to the EU, I can go to lore and go, oh yeah, of course. I can go to Solo now, but I can't prove that with the OT, standalone. So that's why I see how the problem goes from the PT. Somebody watching Star Wars fresh is going to go from the PT with the Clone Wars, go to the OT, not really get it, and then go to the ST and go, I don't understand how the science thread works through this. I don't understand how
I agree
clones
that.
in the beginning and no droid army. Why is there no droids in the ST that are battle droids? Like, you don't understand what I'm saying? Like, the actual logic from A to Z, from 1 to 9, is so malformed now. And at this time, he was like where we were going off of all these assumptions on the EU, which had just been axed, and ancillary material or supplementary material that has now been changed. So it's actually hard to find what the canon is, because there's all these contradictory things, and the questions arise every time you have an answer.
Okay, guys, I think we're ready to keep on going.
It's not that big to get over it. Most of the criticism aimed at this film.
Okay, so he's saying that there's criticism that's category 1 right, category 2 wrong, or category 3 you're right, but it's a nitpick.
Right. Yeah.
That's that's not how I really think about it. Yeah. Being a nitpick is still right. It's just not that big a deal.
It's valid, invalid, inconsequential.
Can we not just narrow it down to there is valid and invalid criticism?
Yeah, and then you can feel about however that criticism that you want, and not all criticism is the same, because if you have a valid criticism, a valid problem, it's going to be, there's different sides of the problems, of holes in stories and plots.
I'd be okay with this paradigm, but I know that we're going to go from things that should be 1 being considered 2 or 3. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to get stuff that's we're going to consider to be valid criticism. He's going to be like, I didn't really care about it. I didn't notice it. That kind of shit.
Under category 3. Not all of it, but most of it. This third category might seem a little odd to you. If criticism is valid, then how can it not be a big deal? Well, usually it means that the criticism is what people would call nitpicking. I'm gonna keep talking to you guys like your children, because my comment section on Star Wars videos is pretty fucked up.
I really hate to say, but this video
Maybe
is completely ignorant.
give us an example of what you think
or else you
nitpicking
will be
is,
trapped in the Division birdcage.
So let's go through the first complaint that people like to latch onto as far as The Force Awakens is concerned. It's also the most popular complaint. The Force Awakens is a ripoff of A New Hope. When I watched the movie, I thought that was kind of on purpose. Like, I don't think Disney thinks that people are dumb. Do you think they did it and thought nobody
he agrees?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do agree. It's
but
on
the
purpose.
thing is, he's doing. He says, "Yes, I believe it's on purpose." It's like, yeah, you could purposely punch someone in the face. That means there's still a problem there.
I meant to. Yes.
It was deliberate. That actually makes it worse. Like, it actually makes it worse. Deliberately stealing is worse than incompetence.
It's like if I said shiny, everyone thinks you stole from Walmart, and shiny went, I know, I was supposed to. It's like, oh, okay.
It was an homage. It wasn't stealing.
I was intending to steal from Walmart.
That was the point. That was the point, boys. It's like, okay, it's still bad, Shiny. Let me sit you down to talk about moral ethics.
Well, I've got a gun, so
Morals
I think
are
moral
subjective.
ethics is whatever the fuck I say it is.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Here's Andrew Clark. Thank you, sir. Glib is wrong, and so is ER. These are First Order troopers. It doesn't matter at all where the Empire was getting these troopers. Oh.
You could say that, except it is the whole time it was Palpatine.
But here's the thing, it's entirely plausible during the times of the Empire because they controlled the galaxy, so they have tons of resources and planets to pick from in terms of wanting soldiers and new ships, more manpower and more strength. The First Order, as we understand it, they don't actually, outside of Starkiller Base, they don't seem to have a home base. And their home base is the Supremacy. It's like a moving fortress. And then that's destroyed as well. And then you've got...
They don't have a home base, but they can build a giant Death Star.
Yeah. So they're a fledgling, as far as we understand, they're a fledgling faction that acts under the nose of the New Republic. So they can't have so much control and influence. So
how did they build a giant Death Star? How did they build the giant super spaceship thing in TLJ? How did they build all the
then
fleet
people say,
in
it's coming from, and then people say, it's coming from Palpatine and Exegol. It's like, yeah, but Palpatine had thousands of ships that can destroy planets. Why didn't he just use those?
Yes.
Yeah. Why did he build?
These are all valid criticisms of why this series is
supremacy.
That's why it's funny to go back here and see Cosmonaut trying to make all these excuses, because you know that the way that it turned out, it didn't make any sense. Palpatine could have done a billion different things. Let me ask you this. How does The Rise of Skywalker tie into Battlefront 2's campaign?
It doesn't really.
How does Operation Cinder make sense with the First Order?
Yeah.
How does T-Ross's giant army of Star Destroyers tie into the idea of The Last Jedi being this slow chase, tie into a giant Death Star thing? This battle plan doesn't make sense. It makes less sense than Game of Thrones, where they push the catapults up or whatever.
Is if, like, obviously you just remove the whole idea of Palpatine, and you had the First Order being sort of like a small guerrilla group. Imagine having a villain which was actually the underdog, and it's kind of like, maybe, I don't know, so almost like a Vietnam kind of thing, where you've got the small group that is kind of like they're the underdog, but yet they keep beating the bigger force because they're outwitting them. And that is something which I think could work a lot more interesting than just, here's an overbearing empire, here's a tiny resistance. Instead, you could actually have, I don't know, the New Republic trying to fight this smaller faction, and behind their back, the First Order is secretly uniting all the factions of the Empire to grow back the Empire, and then all of a sudden the New Republic's outnumbered.
Yeah, it's too bad it didn't happen.
Yeah, they didn't do it that way, so never mind.
Yeah.
Your idea.
Wrath of Khan is actually a good example.
Yep.
Khan is not in a big ship. He's in a small experimental ship versus the Enterprise, which is a much larger ship that's better equipped.
Yes, exactly. But he outwits them, and he's very intelligent, has very loyal people around him for a good reason, because they all come from the same place. They're out of time and all of that. It makes sense. None of this makes sense. So him making these excuses, like, oh, it's supposed to be a remake. I'm like, oh, it's supposed to be a remake, but it's episode 7? Interesting. How does that work? Is Shrek 7 going to be the same movie as Shrek 1, but with some random non-Shrek ogre?
Yeah, with the exact same story beats, plot points, characters, character roles, character interactions.
It's like when people say Korra. Korra was supposed to be a bitch. That doesn't fix the problem. That's
the problem.
That she's one.
I think
Ezra's supposed to be annoying in fucking Rebels, but the problem is that he is. It doesn't matter if they intended him to be.
The point, reflecting back on what Cosmonaut was saying, is that let's talk about nitpicks, as in, or sorry, invalid criticism, and then everyone says, this film is too much like A New Hope, and then he goes, yeah, that's the point. So it's not invalid criticism then, surely. It's accurate criticism.
Yes. You get it.
Just admitted that.
Let me invalidate this with some bullshit real quick.
You would notice? You think that they were like, oh, we're going to make The Force Awakens exactly the same. We're going to make the same movie, and we're going to be rich, and it's going to be great. That's not how it works. Are you fucking dumb?
Yes.
I'm going to explain why it actually...
Yes. Yes. That's exactly what I think happened.
I think JJ said, look, I need to make it just like the original trilogy. What's better than just completely aping the fucking plot?
He says rip it off in his TEDx talk, or was his little talk that he did. He's like, don't rip off the little stuff, rip off the important stuff. I was like, oh, really? Okay. All right. Just be a rip-off artist. They're literally telling people to go out and do that.
Actually, yeah, that explains a lot about the visuals from things like Picard and Discovery, because they've been aping a lot of things, and Alex Kurtzman worked a lot with JJ.
Dude, nobody cares. It's Hollywood, bro. Just rip shit off. The only people that care are a bunch of fanboys. I'm racists and Nazis. It'll all work out.
Was that story about how he punched a wall at the mention of Doomcock an actual thing, or was that made up?
I don't know. It's really hilarious.
It's really funny.
Glib, go get hired a bad robot. We need you in it on the inside.
I'm gonna make good human. That's gonna be the name of my my production company.
Good cowboy.
Good cowboy. Good, and it'll just be like the Peepo with the hat on it.
I swear to
and
God,
it'll be
some of the
somebody
production
patting
companies have weird fucking names.
Oh, like
really
David Benioff's Suction Productions.
What?
Oh, that one's really weird.
I kid you not. David Benioff's thing is Suction Productions.
Oh dear.
Well, they suck, so it makes sense.
I thought it was going to be Ambiguously Brown Productions or something.
There's a certain way to brand
Misa
things.
Productions.
That is not how you do it. You don't have descriptive words. It's anyway.
Peepo Productions
actually works pretty well. Star Wars is a simple fucking story. It's about good versus evil, and that is it. Not always. I mean,
No, it's
sometimes
not.
the
It's
more
not just
daring
about
Star
that.
Wars stories can do pretty well. Star Wars is good at sticking to the concept of good guys versus bad guys, and what it means to be good or evil. The original trilogy conveyed this idea pretty well. A lot of people say the
And that
prequels
means
are better
do
than
it
The Force
again,
Awakens because at least
I guess.
they're original, and this is by far the dumbest shit you could ever say. I'm gonna bring
Why
up
is
an
it the
example from
dumbest shit
cooking
you could ever
shows,
say,
because that's what
Cosmo?
real internet critics do. I watch a lot of cooking
Whoa.
competitions.
So do
That's
I.
why I'm such a good chef.
Okay. Wait.
Being
What's
being a
happening?
good chef means ripping off other chefs.
It's about good versus evil, which is why it makes sense for the sequels to do the OT again. What?
It's about good versus evil. I never played KOTOR 2. What is that?
It's not because it's like the basic idea is just good and evil. There's a lot more there. Like, again, the droid having an important plan on a fucking sand planet, and then that droid ends up running into like an everyday person living on that planet, and then they get taken away on the Falcon and all that shit. And they've got a fucking planet-destroying thing, and they have to blow it up. And there's so many plot points which are one for one with these fucking films. It even extends to Empire Strikes Back and what's it? Last Jedi.
Yeah.
All right, so he's going to give an analogy or some sort of comparison between his watching of a food competition and
nice.
I don't know. We'll find out.
But here's the thing: people do say that the prequels are, by comparison to the sequels, original, and they are correct. It has a different premise that is far removed from the OT, unlike the sequels, which lean on them heavily. So whether or not that's something that bothers you is going to be down to the person, I think. But
which says nothing about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing to be original. So
yeah, that's absolutely. But if someone said the prequels are original, no one can say no. The sequel original. It's like, are they though? Really?
What does that even mean, original?
Yeah. Well, as in, it does an idea that is different to the OT.
Yeah. I mean, it's different slightly. It's a Rey instead of a Luke. Wow.
Bring up an example from cooking shows, because that's what real internet critics do. I watch a lot of cooking competitions. That's why I'm such a good chef. You know when you're watching one of these shows and Alton Brown says,
I'm gonna give you half an hour to make jalapeno poppers.
And you think, yeah, okay, a jalapeno popper. I know what that is. I've been to fucking Chili's. But then one of the chefs goes into the kitchen and says,
I definitely want to reinterpret what a jalapeno popper is and give a Mediterranean twist on it.
Mediterranean? What the fuck? That is not a jalapeno popper. And then she makes this. This is what she makes.
It's wrapped in mozzarella cheese, and over here you have some hummus and popcorn with a little bit of lime on top.
I mean,
How does that
it's
not?
original,
That doesn't mean it can't be good.
It's fucking nasty. That looks nasty. Why is there
It does look
fucking
nasty.
popcorn on it?
You know what's funny? Hold on a second. Isn't this the argument against the Jedi?
What? Here's the thing. You could do something entirely different based on an original formula, and it can still be a success. And the biggest criticism people can say is it's not that formula. And you go, yeah, I know. I did my own thing.
So there is like, I agree with, the people defending the Last Jedi is like, yeah, it's original. It's the most original Star Wars film. It has to be original and good. I agree, but at least the prequels had more quality than the sequels.
This is the same argument we've been saying about Subversion. It's, well, you go into a steakhouse getting a salad or what have you. You have to give the expectations of the audience what they demand, and then you can be original and do whatever you want. So
well, even if you subvert the audience expectations, you have to give them something they're going to be happy with at the same time.
Yes, their expectation has to be met to some degree, and it has to be met to a enough degree that the average viewer goes, oh, I like that Star Wars scene with the Star Wars thing in it. That's kind of what the baseline you have to hit, which was kind of the idea behind Episode 7 when they copied Episode 4. We get it. We saw it. It's obvious. But there has to be more substance to there. There has to be a hero character that is at least comparable or greater than Luke, and we didn't get that. We got a focus of a narrative, like let's say the jalapeno poppers. If you don't give us some heat, if you don't give us some cream cheese or whatever's in, like, I don't know, whatever version of a popper, you're going to ruin the experience for someone. It's like, why is there soy sauce in this popper? I wasn't expecting that. That's not what I want. So where's the heat? You have to give us something. Maybe there's off to the side. Maybe it's a side dish. Maybe it's a part of a gas streak or something. I don't know. They can do that. So
this is going to be really random, but the compositing on that battle droid there is really fucking good for Episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
Some good compositing.
Yeah, it is.
Is it real?
No, it's all the droids with CGI.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go.
Same with all the clones, but
the thing that I just wanted to round out with what I was saying on the TLJ thing is that I don't know if Cosmonaut has, but I would bet money that he's contradicting himself here. That like he's been one of those people that said, don't you want something new and different for The Last Jedi? And yet here he is making the don't you want the same argument, which is funny because it's why is it so hard to just admit they didn't give people what they wanted, which is a new version of the same series, something that is a new entry into the same content. Like some people they don't like everybody likes hamburgers, let's say, in general. Most people like hamburgers that
what if I don't like hamburgers?
Well, then they're not a fan of Star Wars in my metaphor. You know what I mean? Some people are vegans, that kind of thing. So you have everybody that likes burgers, and some people don't like the barbecue sauce style burgers with the crispy onion on it, or and melted cheddar cheese. And some people don't like the California cool burger with avocado and jack cheese or whatever. But it's all burgers. And if you're a fan of burgers, you can get into these different kinds of burgers depending on what mood you're into. And that's kind of the metaphor that I would be going for here with this jalapeno popper thing. Is like, if Star Wars is a hamburger, you can present it in different ways. You can deconstruct it. You can make a hamburger steak. You know what I mean? You can take that ground meat and make a taco out of it if you want to. But the point is that you have to make it tasty no matter what. And so what's funny about this metaphor that I agree with Cosmo is that, yeah, you can't just add hummus and popcorn and all these different things. But that is what is happening to Star Wars. So I don't understand why he can't see that. I don't understand why people can't see that.
I want
is
to
what
give
is happening
Star Wars a new twist. So I'm going to give it some popcorn. I'm going to shit on the plate.
Yeah, he understands that. Like, no, you don't do that. Make something relatable. And then we flip around and use The Last Jedi and then go back to T-Ross. It's like, so what is it? Are we what restaurant are we in? Are we in a fucking Denny's where we know what we're going to get and it's going to be average representation of a burger? Or are we in a fucking stupid ass kitchen with Ryan Johnson where he's like, I'm going to deconstruct a burger. Instead, the patties are going to be the buns this time. Like, nobody wants that.
The hypocritical statement that he thinks The Last Jedi should be praised by virtue of being different, and yet he will not acknowledge when that same tone-deaf application is put forward to the prequels.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to figure out if he's one of those people that actually liked The Last Jedi, because I don't remember. Did he like The Last Jedi?
He thinks
yes,
it's like He rates it like a 7 or 8 out of 10.
Okay, so yeah, he's contradicting himself now, but he doesn't know it yet because this is 2015. So there you go.
I think it was actually
Something's
probably like
original.
2016 or something.
No, I think the video is 2015.
Whatever, you know what I mean.
At least that's where I remember watching this video.
Well, this video
you
came
can
out.
set yourself up for arguments that are, if something changes, like where you're assuming that things are going to go this way in the future, it's going to stay like what J.J. Abrams did. And then if you're wrong, well, now you got to make it the opposite argument, and you're a hypocrite. That's why I don't make statements like what Cosmo's saying. That's why we're saying don't make statements like Cosmo. Like, don't say you're all dumb for not liking this thing that it may have all these flaws in it that you're missing.
Yeah, this video came out 2 years ago, so he had plenty of time.
Oh, okay. It came out in 2018?
Yes.
Man, it must be later than that. It must be 2017 at the very least.
Is it before or after The Last Jedi? That's all I want to know.
I think it's before
It's
the last.
2017, October.
It's most definitely before The Last Jedi.
Yeah, October 2017.
Hands down, I can say that for a fact.
Benefit of hindsight. You know what I mean? Now, if he wouldn't have made these arguments, Jedi were going to subvert expectations, and that was going to be the correct way to make things.
If it's still bad. Star Wars Episode 1 is the popcorn hummus jalapeno popper. It's original, yes, but it sucks. The Force Awakens shares its plot structure with the New Hope.
But it has more
yes,
qualities
This is
than
true.
the sequels.
Nobody's saying that it isn't
this
true.
just sounds like The Last Jedi.
I just think it does it well. It diverges in enough areas to make it a unique experience. I didn't get the same feelings watching it as I do when I watch New
unironically,
Hope.
you're showing
When I watched
this
The Force
fucking
Awakens, I
Wait.
enjoyed
It's okay. Go on with what you're saying, Shiny. Go.
He's saying what's the exact like what he says, that he feels like it diverges in enough areas and scenes to be original and good, but yet he has that fucking meatball scene with Scottish loan sharks that is incredibly stupid. That's not a good scene. That's a very
he
poor
also
example.
he also says he doesn't get the same feelings that he got when watching a new. And I thought that was funny because I believe that was the intention. You were supposed to get the same feelings, and then instead you get new and different feelings, questioning yourself and wondering if this is good or not.
Awakens, I enjoyed the familiarity. It's easy to drone on and say it's unoriginal, but if a movie is adapting similar circumstances, but
There's a big difference between unoriginal and carbon copying something.
Yeah. Like Aragon is semi-unoriginal.
And here he's also showing the two cantina scenes. And also the one cantina scene is just full of just random shit that doesn't look like Star Wars, while unironically saying it looks like Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly.
It feels like Star Wars.
Yeah, the
So
cantina
he's
scene has
contradicting
no.
himself.
For some reason, it's like people are like, why? I don't want the peanut butter popcorn, and I think that not including any of the aliens from the OT or the PT that are relevant to the Star Wars universe is doing that. Like, we need to reinvent the alien. That's what they did there. They didn't go, hey, give them the French fries of the meal are the alien races and stuff and their different technology and the aesthetics. Let's forgo that and make a bunch of weird Doctor Who flesh-looking aliens.
I wouldn't even say they're like fucking Doctor Who. The thing is about J.J. Abrams, he even did it with Star Trek. He just likes to have alien-looking aliens for the sake of having alien-looking aliens.
But they're fleshy colored. They're not alien. Like, I mean, a couple of them are like really weird looking. And they're really disgusting looking faces.
Yeah, they're still alien. They're still wacky. They're still weird. Like that alien there, it's got flesh color, but it's very obvious it's an alien, even though it's just got goggles on its face. Like the face shape is weird.
Like, I like Greedo because the Rhodians look like sort of the pulpy science fiction characters, just slightly changed a little. There's a real 70s aesthetic to everything.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, there is very much an aesthetic which you're supposed to stick to when you go into a franchise like Star Wars.
Yes,
or
exactly.
Star Trek.
Exactly. Like the
it has
Duros,
a look, it has a feel, it has a design language.
And everything, all of the different aliens in the, even though you're Devil Man or whatever people said that, I that never bothered me because like they're all so distinct. They're way different. All of the different aliens look completely unique.
Yeah. And I think it's also because A New Hope is like the very first film, you're allowed to get away with establishing a lot of new things. But you're become a lot more limited on the things you can do the further you go down the line, because you have to stick to what is already there.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Different emotional context to it, it's considered an homage. Let me explain, because apparently this is a foreign concept to some people. Luke is down on his luck and he wants to move out of his parents' house and have fun. He's also supposed to be the everyman.
No, he doesn't.
We're
That's
supposed
not
to
the
put
point.
ourselves in his shoes.
There's a difference
That's not the
between an
point.
homage and there's a difference between a carbon copy.
He doesn't want to go out there and have fun. He wants to academy so that he can fight.
Shall we define the difference between homage and carbon copy, just so we are defining his terms, even though he isn't?
Sure. Anyone want to do that? I can do
go
that.
for it.
Homage is very simple. It's you're honoring something that came before. So it's a respectful presentation of another thing in a similar light. So when in episode 9, when Kylo Ren does that shrug, it's like, oh yeah, that's that shrug from Han Solo. We get it. It's cool. It's simple.
Like when George R. R. Martin names a guy in his book Arthur Dane as kind of a subtle homage to Tolkien, who has a kingdom called Arthedain.
Yes.
For sake of just argument, Smud, so why isn't the plot points they've taken from A New Hope, why isn't that not homage when it put it into Force Awakens?
Well, the problem with the plot points is that they are literally carbon copies. So it's like, this is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and this is character when it was in, and even the events between those plot points are the same. So there's, like, I can look at, someone else's story, like Tolkien, and write my own version of elves and dwarves with slightly different names and slightly different scenarios. But if I copy and paste everything, then I'm stealing. So when you do an homage, like a spiritual successor to something, or some element where you pull from another work of art, which is fine, you got to be very careful in the video world, because you're literally, like, everyone sees it and has heard it and has experienced it 10 years ago, 20 years ago, etc. So when you're doing the same genre, and especially when you're in the same franchise, you can get away with it because you're allowed to, because you're allowed to have a license. But because you put a different face to it, because you put a different voice to it, or any other visual and artistic medium, people who know it, and especially the Star Wars, the biggest franchise in movie history, they're going to be like, wait a second, I have this thing called nostalgia. And nostalgia is suddenly turning into deja vu. So when I was watching episode 7, it was this immediate feeling of, oh, I know this. Wait a second. I really know this. This is like a dream I had. No, it's not. When I was a kid, I watched this exactly beat for beat. So there's something plagiaristic about this nature of J.J. Abrams' technique that is, I wouldn't say offensive, because obviously he can get away with it. It's just the feeling is beyond nostalgia. And I don't like what that has become.
Weaponized nostalgia is the phrase that's being thrown around lately.
That's a weird way of putting it, but okay.
I would say it's more like trying to get, what JJ's thing is he tries to get nostalgia, especially within The Force Awakens is a very good example of this, where he uses it as a distraction to try and stop you from thinking. And that is what his entire films are designed for, just try and stop you from thinking. That's the whole thing about no slow moments. If the film slows down at all, then you stop, then you think, then you realize, actually, no, that makes no sense. But if he tries to keep the film going constantly moving to one scene to another, to another, to another, to another, with no rests, then it gives you less of a chance to stop and think, because there's so many flashy things on the screen.
The other thing is that it's like what Razorfist said. It's like, if it's not a meme, it's not in the movie.
To put ourselves in his shoes. Rey is basically stranded, and we aren't shown how she got to the planet or why she's there. part of her also wants
No, we
to
are
stay
showing
where
why
she
she's
is.
there.
It's the same as
Yeah,
A
but-
New Hope.
No, we are
Now we
showing.
know, though. Now we know that she was put there because
Well,
it's the
no, no,
exact
even
same
then-
reason as Luke. It's literally just Luke again.
Well, even within the film, there is a scene where it's a flashback and Rey's been left on the planet, so we know how she got dropped off there by a ship.
Well, we know how that. We don't know why, right? So, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
we figured that out then, and so how she got there. We got that from T. Ross. It's because she's Palpatine's fucking granddaughter, right? So it's just a carbon copy.
But anyway,
It's
no, even then, Cosmonaut was wrong to say like we don't know how she got there because in this film we already did. We didn't need Rise of Skywalker to tell how she got there.
Mm-hmm.
The same as A New Hope narratively, but it gives us a different emotional context. We may relate to Rey and her struggle,
What does that
but we're
mean?
more
Wait a minute. How do you
interested behind why she's
same
here.
thing and have a
Read
different
behind-
emotional?
What is emotional context? How you're feeling in the moment?
It's your relationship to the understanding of the information about why events are the way they are. So the loss of a parent or being separated from one to be stranded with a family, or in this case, alone. It is slightly different. I'll give it that. The way it's presented is definitely different. But the end result is the same. It's a person on a desert island or a desert planet, and they're getting by. So yeah, this is the first. I think the first 15 minutes of the movie are original. We are introduced to Rey, so that we can say, hey, this is new. I can agree. That's what happens in the first 10.
Even the beginning of the film doesn't introduce us to Rey. It introduces us to the Star Destroyer and then the Stormtroopers
Sure.
and Poe and all that.
Sure, that's a good start because it's familiar, but it's also being presented in a new way, and then we keep going, and then we get to the point where it's like, wait a second, this is the same movie. That's the problem. So having all these feelings is great, but once they begin to be reminiscent of exactly the same scenarios, it's like, oh, now I feel.
I would say
it's like going to a restaurant the second time, like, I don't know, after a year. You're like, okay, I'm expecting a really good experience, and it's exactly the same. The menu's exactly the same. The chef that made the menu is gone now. It's some new chef, and you're just like, oh, this is like not as good as I remembered, even though it's exactly the same.
The going back to it, what was it? Not what he tried to say. It was an homage. Like there are actually homage moments within the film of so like it's new, but it's kind of referencing the old of like the Star Destroyer slowly encompassing the planet. That's obviously sort of like their own spin on the Star Destroyer coming over the camera after the Tantive V4 goes past. So yeah, I'll give you that's an homage. Okay, you can have that. It's done without Star Wars. Their own take on the Star Destroyer going overhead. The Clone Wars did it. The the Jedi Fallen Order did it at the beginning as well. But that's an homage. But yeah, okay, yeah, you have a little bit of it, but I agree with Smud where it's a lot of the plot is just aping and not an homage.
Why she's here. This is where a remake or ripoff is separate from an homage. An homage takes previously established elements and presents them in a new way. Let's keep going.
No, it's not presenting it in a new light at all.
You're respecting something that came before. It could be a name, it could be a prop, it could be a term, it could be anything. But it's in a very minute detail, a very small way. Like the name of a ship. Like you're literally the name of a ship, you're causing respect to a certain event in history or a person or a city or what have you.
But to get to his point, an homage is really not doing the same thing but giving a different light. That's not an homage at all.
Yeah, that's not cool.
In fact, I would
That's
argue
much bigger than an homage.
I would argue that the first 10-20 minutes of it being introduced to Rey is more original. So what is she homaging toward?
Yeah, exactly.
Who is she trying to respect? Herself? Luke? Definitely not Luke. Luke's not alone. He has a family. Maybe the droid could be an homage to R2-D2 and C-3PO because he's by himself and he's again that's original. You got a spherical droid on a desert.
Honestly,
I don't even think the droid's
just
original.
It's totally just Anakin and Luke put together. and you know you have Watto Uncle Butt. You know, you have this desert planet being left on the planet to protect the background of the character. Jedi. Slavery. Or whatever. Wage cucking.
I mean, an average writer can take this premise. Okay, I want to do another version of episode 4. They're not going to go beat by beat. They're just not going to do it. They're going to take the beats. They're going to look at the structure and go, okay, you know, she leaves the planet. She's in the Millennium Falcon. Maybe it's not the Millennium Falcon. Maybe it's a different ship. Fine. Maybe she doesn't leave the planet. Fine. Maybe there's all these other things you want to do, but you still hit the same beats while doing something drastically different. Because no writer would ever just copy and paste. It just wouldn't work. They would be sitting there going, I'm an idiot. What the hell am I doing with my life if I'm just copying and pasting something else?
Want to go home and rethink your life?
Yeah, pretty much. Dunn, you would never look at episode 4 and go, okay, I'm going to make the next blockbuster for Star Wars. Let me just copy paste. Like, you'd shoot yourself. Like, I can't do this with my life. This is crazy. There's nothing original about me. I suck. You want to push yourself. You want to push your ego into something. You want to put what's inside you onto the screen or onto the paper. It's a very personal thing, and to do that is a horrible thing to do yourself.
Like Rise of the Dark Moon was kind of me taking a look at like at least like the concepts of the Angmar campaign in Lord of the Rings, something that's really obscure that's just like, I really like this idea, and there's never going to be anything that like delves into the characters in relation to this, so I want to do something similar to this. Try and do some stuff like this, but I'm not going to like copy the exact same structure and characters. I'm going to do my own thing with it.
I know. I was actually playing a game. I can't remember what it was called. I deleted it because it was so bad. It was on my phone. It was pretty much a carbon copy of Final Fantasy Tactics, one of my favorite games back in the day. It was on my phone. And they just copied the entire chapel scene in the intro. You fight a dark knight. He annihilates everyone with this summon of a demon. I'm just like, okay, that's enough. This is pretty much a copy. But there's so many games like that from South Korea and China where they copy something hugely popular like League of Legends or some other franchise. And it's ridiculous. There's no creativity. People like this character. We're going to make our own version of it. He's going to have red hair, even though the haircut's exactly the same style. It's like, okay, that's not... You copied and pasted the outline of an image and you painted it differently. That's not how you do it. So, changing the genders of Luke, that's a good first step, right? You know, haircut. I don't know where that haircut came, but it's too specific. You know, maybe a little more original, a little more rough and tumble. I think her doing her braids or whatever you call those bunches for Ray's hair is like, all right, that's something, but it's, you know, a little. It shows some degree of, like, look at the girl from the flashback, right? She has exactly the same hairstyle and clothing, and now look at Ray. When we see her, it's exactly the same. She hasn't changed.
She never changes her clothes this entire time. They must be very smelly.
It's weird.
She must smell like there should be like Finn should be like blanching every time he's near her.
The clothes scaled with her. Don't worry about it.
It's like her character and her physical appearance did not change for 10 years.
She should be like
no. For a day, her clothes turned gray. That's what happened.
Oh yeah, they're always immaculately white. They're always white, even after falling through quicksand and all the other stuff she goes through. It's like, yeah, no, she's fine. It's all white.
We're not sexist, folks. We honestly believe that these characters deserve these female. We don't hate female characters. We're saying these female characters deserve better writing.
We're saying they deserve a change of clothes once in a while
and go to the laundromat, take a shower. You know,
I absolutely did not want Rey to be, because I wanted it to be about 3 generations of Skywalker boys. So you can call me sexist for wanting that. I don't care.
Skywalker daughters, that too, since Jane is pretty bad, eh?
I always thought
for the next Twilight movie, I want Bella to be a guy. Bella's
I'm sorry, Don. Did you just say bad A?
Yeah.
Can you really not say ass?
Not very often, no. can say jackass, but I don't say
You know,
that.
I've never met anyone who just like they try to swear but try so hard to get around swearing.
Shiny, you have to hang around more writers. Honestly, they're very, very special when it comes to words. So
I'm trying not to swear as much too. That's a good point.
That's good. That's a good idea.
It's a
Nothing wrong with
fucking good
swearing.
point.
There's nothing wrong with swearing.
Actually, the thing that it does do as a negative is it restricts your language. It restricts your vocabulary. If you need a better term and you need to rack your brain to find it, then that exercises that part of your mind that would normally just be a curse word.
Shut the fuck up, Glib, you daft cunt.
No, but see, daft cunt is good, but shut the fuck up is so normal. I've heard that.
Glib, stop being a fucking wanker.
I am a brilliant, opulent wordsmith. With a verbiage.
No, you're a cunt.
Verbose verbiage. Yes, there you go. I need to read more again.
You're
My
a fuckwit.
vocabulary is degrading. It's like biking. If you don't ride a bike, you never forget how to ride a bike, but you just get worse at it when you don't do it. You know what I mean? Like, I can't do a tail whip anymore because I forgot. But I'll remember if I start it up again.
All right, let's keep going. We got a lot more to go through.
Let's look at more examples of this so you guys get the idea. Now, if this is a direct remake or a ripoff, then we should have characters that represent Luke, Leia, Han, Chewie, Obi-Wan, R2, and 3PO.
No.
We do.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's go with this for a second because I think we do.
Yeah, Han Solo, Leia, and Luke have all been rolled into Rey, and then in terms of Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's Han Solo.
Right.
In terms of R2-D2, it's the fucking BB-8.
It's BB-8, right? And C-3PO is C-3PO.
But even if it wasn't,
Yeah, C-3PO is himself.
I think
Starring C-3PO as himself.
and Poe is basically Han Solo with a Luke cone of paint.
Starring Hans YOLO.
And a lot of people, like, I think, like, School of Movies were, like, comparing this to Harry Potter and saying that, like, Rey has got a kind of a Hermione vibe. That's why she knows so much. And it's like, no. Hermione had access to information and books. Rey's a Aqua is a fourth is on a fourth world planet. Is on a fourth world planet with no info. At least it's not
they needed a scene where she had a holocron the whole, and that gave us a hint that she was a Jedi and stuff, and that she had been training.
Even then, just having a holocron isn't equivalent to training. It's like,
actually showing her doing it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like
okay.
she's got a holocron, she's there, she's practicing, she's got like or maybe it's just creativity is something that would have really come in handy at conveying the important information that.
You think J.J. Abrams has creativity?
No, that's why he gets hired so much.
He's a bland workaday director who just kind of will do a job. Like,
who keeps fucking hiring J.J. Abrams, for God's sake?
It's because he makes the money.
Kind of like
money.
Kind of like Ron Howard in that.
That's because the reason why he makes money is because he's working off existing franchises half the time.
Yes, but so are the people that are hiring him. They're just as bad.
Him and Zack Snyder kind of have a problem with not. Like they don't Zack Snyder's only done one semi-original film, and that's Sucker Punch. Everything else is off existing property.
Fucking terrible.
Yeah, from what I understand, it's just it's weird, reality bending, strange nonsense. I think even Zack Snyder described it as Alice in Wonderland with machine guns.
Yes, this girl has dissociative identity disorder because she's being abused in a psychiatric. And her delusions look like video game levels. And she has to get a knife in Operation Knife. And so she's doing all this anime shit. But in the real world, you see that she's actually just killing a cook or whatever. And it's her and a bunch of psychotic women or whatever trying to escape this place. Because she didn't kill. It's fucking. Think about how convoluted this plot is. But at the same time, it's really just a girl thinks that she's way cooler than she actually is.
Also, there's elements of she's associating lobotomy with rape, which also is weird, and which it itself is a delusion. converted by delusion to like sacrifice herself to save other people. And it's just waste of John Hamm and Oscar Isaac.
Oh my god, huge waste of all the talent.
Yeah, and it's like Zack Snyder and J.J. Abrams both had this exact same problem, where they don't really have that many interesting original ideas. They just have to rip off other people's better ideas and do them worse. Like Watchmen, the movie, is a worse version of the Watchmen comic, from what I understand. Same with Batman v Superman.
Yeah,
but even then, Batman v Superman it apes a lot from Return of the Dark Knight. But
Dark Knight Returns.
Dark Knight Returns. Yeah, it takes a lot from Dark Knight Returns, but it isn't that story at the exact same time.
And that's the worst part about it. If he had just actually done it, then people would have loved it.
Well, even then, I don't think Dark Knight Returns it works better as a what if story than that being the main idea of Batman.
It works as an ending story for Batman, as his retirement story. That's the point. It was the end of Batman for Frank Miller.
Well, it's what if Batman came back story, not the ending of a Batman story.
Well, he started his own version of Batman. There's the Frank Miller. There's Batman Year One, which is how Frank Miller starts a Batman story, and then Dark Knight Returns is how he goes out. Bruce Wayne basically fakes his own death and then becomes sort of an army of Batman leader, like an old man spiritual leader, by uniting a bunch of gangs. And that's how he goes out. He replaces Robin with a chick, and the Joker basically is dead, and that's his swan song. So Frank Miller had the beginning and the end of Batman. He was making his stories, and then there's a middle. The middle is like a Christmas story that he made. But he did the same thing with Superman. There's a Superman Return story and a Superman Year One story tied in to Batman versus not Batman versus Superman, but Dark Knight Returns is a old Superman, old Batman story, and now Frank has gone around to make Superman Year One that lines up with Batman Year One, the same chronology, so that he can sort of create an origin story and a finality to his character, and then the middle is open to interpretation.
Luke is Rey, right? Well, sort of, but not really. Her situation at the beginning of the movie is reminiscent of Luke's, but as far as personality goes, they're way different. Luke is a fucking brat in a new
because she doesn't have any.
He's kind of rude.
Hello.
And impatient.
She's rude
Impatience
too.
is a trait that he keeps
She's
for most
rude
of the
for the
franchise.
joy.
Everyone calls
Saying hello is rude.
Hello, yeah, exactly.
Wait, what?
He's not rude. And then on top of it, remember the way that Rey was talking to BB-8? No! Get out of here! Go over there!
No.
Also, holding my hand. She's
Quit
assuming...
holding my hand! I'm not a girl, I'm a man!
I would argue that
It's more just
Luke's personality is pretty limited because he's the role, or we see him as the role of the everyman, meaning he's sort of a generic guy. The same with Rey. She's just a generic nobody who's pretty stoic, and she doesn't really have too many aspirations one way or the other. So I would say their personalities are different, but they're pretty much the same effect.
In terms of their plot role, they're exactly the same.
Sure.
She's in a super bland version of him, and he's only upset because he has to do his duty as like a son, essentially, and stay on and help out at the farm. I mean, he's disappointed that he can't go out there and do the adventurous thing that he wants to go and do, because he wants to go and fight with Biggs and stuff like that. So I understand that. That's a pretty common personality. It's not out of the ordinary. It's pretty good execution of the optimistic farm boy stereotype or archetype. The thing about Rey is that she's simultaneously amazing and worldly and can speak multiple languages and all these things that Luke can't do, but yet there's almost nothing that justifies what she can do. She can bypass the compressor and know all about the Millennium Falcon because she's been on it a couple times. That's like, honestly, let me put it this way. There's this place that's nearby me that is a sort of museum for trains. It's just basically a train yard that got converted into a museum where they store all these locomotives that nobody wants anymore. So they made a museum out of it. And I used to go there as a kid and be like, wow, this is so cool. Is this what this does? Is this what this does? What Rey is doing in The Force Awakens is the equivalent of if I went, oh, we need a train. Come on, let's go to this museum. And then we went to the museum, and I suddenly knew how to turn on all the mechanisms and make all the trains work. Like, that's not how it works. Like, if somebody was at an airplane, they grew up at an airplane junkyard. Maybe the person that was there knew something about them, and that was something that how they got taught how planes and everything worked and showed them flying and stuff. But we never see that. What's amazing is that people like to conflate the connotation that we have about how do we know that Luke is a good pilot? Well, we see him playing with the little model of the plane that's in the or whatever that's in the back.
Also,
the Skyhopper.
Well, I'd say that's a very it's there, but it's a much smaller thing. Whereas Luke is referenced as being a good pilot multiple times by Obi-Wan and by Luke himself says, "Yeah, I'm a pretty good pilot." Obi-Wan says, "Your father was one of the greatest pilots I ever knew in the Clone Wars." And it says, "Well, I heard you're a pretty good pilot yourself."
You know what it made more sense if Rey was somebody that worked at a place that like they took old ships and then converted them into like regular ships. So then what happened was like they were refurbishing it, yeah. And then Han Solo came down to the planet and was like, "Hey, that's my old ship. I want to buy that off you." And she's like, "It's not for sale. I'm building it for myself." And he's like, "Listen, kid, that's really important to me." And then what happens is that's when Han gets attacked on Jakku, and so they all have to escape together in the old ship, and then they have to work together to do it. And he's the one that tells her to bypass the compressor, and she's like, "How did you know how to do that?" And I'm like, "Kid, I've been flying this thing since longer than you were born." And then we can actually have them learn from each other. But it's like everybody knows she's a Mary Sue because she has the same personality as the people that are making it, which is like, "I don't need you to tell me what to do. I'm fucking empowered. I'm strong. I know Star Wars. You're stupid. I don't need to know anything. I'm going to boy puss your compressor."
Can I just say, I really like Glib's impression of Han Solo. It's not accurate, but it's good. I like it. I like it.
It's the personality without the actual toning.
Yeah, I'd agree. It's the personality without the toning. There you go. But I like it.
It's also the point where like both of them are awesome. It's not just one of them is awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice job. Don't get penisy.
Yeah, exactly. That's great, kid. Don't get penisy. I don't have a penis. Stupid.
Back when Harrison Ford actually cared about his role, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Kid, the Jedi, the Sith, it's true, all of it. She's like, "I know. I had a little computer when I was inside the AT-AT."
Wait, even the all the stories the Emperor made up, like of them being terrible people, they're true as well?
Yeah.
Well, I see through the lies of the Jedi.
Because it is established that the Emperor says, you know, he makes up lies saying that, they tried to kill me, their attack has left me horribly scarred.
I have no idea.
Was that true? Did they really do that? Apparently to Han Solo they did.
I'll be right back.
Once more, the Sith will rule the galaxy.
It's like, how many Sith are there left? It's like one.
And we shall have peace. Yes, I know. So, what are you doing here, Ray? You're 3 films too early.
I'm traveling through time now. I do that according to the Lego holiday special they're releasing. It's Doomcock originally leaked it, and then it came out officially, and it's going to be Ray traveling through time.
No.
You didn't hear about this already? I'm fucking out of the loop. Where the fuck you been?
In a happy place. A happier place, at least. Oh, boy. Let's just keep going.
My happy place is something called a TV and a lot of Clone Wars.
Franchise. Everyone calls him impatient. I'd say that this is one of his strongest traits. Rey is the opposite. She's intent on
one of his strongest traits is does he mean in terms of Rey? Okay, strongest traits, does he mean the most prominent trait, or does he mean the most positive trait?
No, not positive. Meaning it's just one that we identify with Luke a lot, which is he's impulsive. That's true.
The strongest trait has certain connotations to it, and specifically when you're talking about characters.
He's young and inexperienced. That's
to me that could also mean positive.
Sure, but that's not in the context of the film. When he does things impulsively, bad things happen. So
I agree, that it's in the context of the film. Like, Luke is this way, but it's the way that the cosmonaut is saying it with a positive connotation.
Back together. Rey is purposefully an inversion on Luke's personality. So what about the other?
Like Anakin?
Wait, how is a stoic, independent woman an inversion of a personality of a character who has barely any personality? They're both very bland.
Yeah. Yep.
Characters. Who is the Han Solo of this story? Who's the brash and cocky scoundrel? Poe?
Oscar
no, not
Isaac,
really.
yeah.
He cracks jokes and he does some crazy
yes.
shit, but I wouldn't say he's a stand-in for Han.
Why not?
He's not really around long enough to be that. So
Really? Well, then that's a problem with the movie, not a problem with the character being a copy of Han.
Who's the previous person we talked about through YouTube?
That would make him a bad copy of Han, not that he's not a copy.
Again, the way
there you go.
I described it, that they take Han Solo's some of his personality and Luke Skywalker's piloting ability, they put the two together, and then they take what's left of Han, they mix it in with Rey. They mix it in with Leia. Then they mix it in with Han Solo. So they take these parts. So narratively, she has the same thing of all three of the characters, because she's also a prisoner like Leia. She's the Jedi like Luke, while also being like the Falcon pilot like Han Solo.
Didn't we hear the exact opposite from AT-AT chat before, where he said that Poe is the amalgamation of all the three,
all the characters? Yeah.
Wow, they're all copies of each other. Like they're all Han, Luke, and Leia. Because Star Wars.
I have to boil them down to like more base elements and spread the traits around, or try to find traits in other media that aren't Star Wars related and bring them in, because that's much more interesting. Like what I wouldn't give for Tywin Lannister in Star Wars. Wouldn't that be awesome?
He's looking at the characters' personalities rather than actively looking at the characters' how they work with their plot purpose. So what they do within the plot and their actions rather than who they are. Because that's more the criticism when it comes to the characters and taking their place. Because obviously, Rey doesn't have the same personality as Luke, but she has the exact same purpose within the story. And story has the exact same beats.
The thing is with Luke, his impulsiveness is his flaw. It's not his strength. So he overcomes that.
Yeah, being a carbon copy of a character does not mean that they are 100% like that character from every angle. It means that they have quite a lot of traits, whether it be a storyline or personality, that are, similar.
Yeah, like, wouldn't it be awesome if we had a Tywin Lannister style bad guy for the sequel trilogy?
They almost had that with Tarkin, and then they almost had that again with Hux. And then, there was Thrawn, but we don't talk about how he was treated in Rebels.
The problem is...
it's funny how they prioritize characters that they don't know will sell over the characters that will sell.
Well, you have to write characters that are intelligent, you have to be intelligent. You have to actually plan out intelligent characters. Like that's what I say a lot when I talk about writing to other people. It's like, you want a really elaborate, intelligent supervillain? Guess what? Are you a supervillain? Okay, if you're not, get to know someone who's really smart and really evil, or figure out how to become that person and then write it out. You have to figure it out first before you create them.
Another thing that I think Brandon Sanderson actually has talked about this, where like he actually put out a video of how do I write characters that are smarter than me. Basically, his explanation is like, because you're a writer, you can set up reaction times that are much quicker in the book than they are in real life, so you can make the characters smarter than you because they react to stuff quicker. I think is how he described it.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah, like how to solve a test faster than the average person because you know more. That's fine. Knowledge
it still requires intelligence though to do that.
Yeah, like you can't just write a murder mystery because you want to. There's some people just can't do it. It's too difficult. You have to plan it out. You have to literally figure out all the pieces before you put them into a jumbled mess. So you can't just say, okay, now it's this person. It's like, no, you can't reveal the murderer at the last moment as you didn't write yet. You have to be as intelligent as your villain, if your villain is supposed to be the intelligent mastermind. Basic stuff. Something has to come from something. It can't come from nothing.
What about Finn? Well, no. Finn's the everyman, I guess. He's more of a vessel for the viewer to experience the story. He's not exactly the
wait.
fish out of water
How is Finn an
protagonist.
everyman when he's a stormtrooper who's been trained as a deadly warrior his entire life, as a deadly soldier? Like he becomes the bumbling buffoon best friend character, but the initial setup and the backstory of his character, that is not the everyman, because not everyone is a brainwashed child who runs away from the army.
Being an everyman also implies that he can do most things when he has no ability to pilot.
Right, like we look at Luke as the everyman, and he has only a few skills. He can pilot really well. He can, what else? What else can Luke do?
Indoctrinated since childhood. He has been raised as a first-order, obedient janitor.
If anything, he is the most interesting character out of the lot, but he also gets the short end of the stick.
Yeah, it's strange.
Trained since birth to mop up the fucking room outside of the power generator thing.
Yeah, he's the
tracker.
He's the insider, and then we find out he wasn't much of an insider. He was just the janitor guy. But then we later learn he knows all this stuff about the technical details of ships we've never heard of before. And it's just bizarre how he has all this information. It just happens to be relevant in The Last Jedi. And then he goes back to being irrelevant again. It's underutilized. Yeah, it's underdeveloped. And that's why a lot of people argue that Finn should have been the main character, because he was much more compelling as a child soldier escaping his whatever conditioning. However that happened, we don't know. He just didn't want to do it anymore for whatever reason.
Well, it's the most interesting new idea that they had.
Yeah.
The fish out of water protagonist, though, because his knowledge of the universe makes him more important to the plot, but he's not as savvy as Han was in A New Hope, so
his
the
knowledge
character
of the
who's
universe
closest to
is
being
fucking
Han,
retarded.
I guess, is just Han, but he's way
And they
different
just
than he
make it
used
up
to
on
be.
the
He's not as
spot.
cocky or stupid.
Like the whole idea that he used to be
It's exactly the same. Sorry.
Han Solo's he's evolved backwards back in character development. But anyway, in terms of Finn, they just invent that he worked on the Starkiller base. He didn't try to, but that means he knew about it, and he didn't try to warn anyone that the First Order have this thing, which you think would be a pretty important thing to warn everyone about. And then they just invent that he used to be the janitor on Starkiller base, out of the blue, not only for a joke, while also just inventing a reason for him to go along.
He's not as cocky or stupid as he used to be in the original movie.
No.
He's wise in his own way. He also fits the role of mentor like Obi-Wan in the original movie, but he obviously isn't the same as Obi-Wan. Ben was super disciplined and incredibly genre savvy. He knew what was going.
What? Genre savvy?
I don't know what that means. Can we talk about the idea in The Force Awakens that Finn thinks they can escape Jakku despite the fact he mopped the room of the Supremacy that has the hyperspace tracker?
Yeah, and they also just invent that as well.
Yeah, but the idea that he mopped the hyperspace tracker and then admits to Poe in The Last Jedi that they can track from any Star Destroyer if they disable it on the Supremacy. So why does he ever think they could get away?
Mm-hmm.
When they run from Jakku, he might as well have been like, he got down to the desert and then the stormtroopers see him and call in the fighters and he's like, well, I'm fucked.
Yeah, the only real hope for him to escape would be to... That even makes sense. Doesn't make sense when he got the TIE fighters, because if the TIE fighter was going to hyperspace away, the Star Destroyer would just follow them. So the only escape was to go down to the planet. Anyway, he didn't want to go down to the planet. It's like, no, we need to get anywhere else other than Jakku.
He tells Poe to fly away. He needs to.
The only place they could go is Jakku and hide on Jakku. And then Jakku is a whole fucking planet, and yet the First Order could just find them like that because they have a couple of fuckwits there.
Yeah, but that is if they actually couldn't hyperspace away in the TIE fighter, despite the fact that the Rise of Skywalker shows TIE fighters can fly through hyperspace. So maybe it was possible, but then again, why was he encouraging Poe to do that if he knows that all the Star Destroyers have hyperspace trackers.
Yeah.
I think the best connection we can have between...
I do find the fact that the TIE fighters have hyperdrives to be kind of stupid.
Between Han and Obi-Wan is that Han is the, not the surrogate father, but kind of like the surrogate Obi-Wan to Rey.
Obi-Han Kenobi.
Yeah. And he dies, just like Obi-Wan dies. So again, it's like, okay, yeah, you're just replacing characters with previously established roles. And
well, it's the idea that he fulfills a parental role that the main character, i.e. Rey and Luke in their respective trilogies, they fulfill that mentor role or that guidance role, and then that guidance role is ripped away from them prematurely, so they have to find their own way, despite the fact that Luke finds his own way based on what happened to Obi-Wan. He takes up training as he is instructed to. Rey kind of just forgets that Han Solo died the next film.
Han never taught her anything.
Yeah.
He's just the guy with the ship.
You killed Han Solo, she says to Kylo, and then it's like, I'm going to save you because he's conflicted.
He's a bad boy. I can help him.
Dreamy.
On before the audience did. Han isn't like that. Han's just trying to hustle and make it work. So we don't have a Luke, we don't have a Han, and we don't have an Obi-Wan.
No, wait. Everyone didn't know the plot before the audience.
Oh, I love it. I love it. He's just like, we don't have a Han. We don't. There's Han right there playing the Obi-Wan character. There's our fucking Han Solo right next to him. Oh, but we split Han Solo into two because, boys are going to be boy.
Is it kind of like a real slap in the face to Han Solo as well? His character is just, he's a hustler. He's a hustler that's trying to make it work. As if he was... he's talking about that as if that's what Han always was, which would be weird considering he said Han is entirely different to how we once knew him. And secondly, that wasn't Han Solo to begin with, even if that's what Cosmonaut believes.
General Han Solo of the rebellion.
The smuggler? No, the rebellion general.
I only heard about you because for some reason you decided to become a fucking fuck up in the last 20 years.
Pre-existing characters either. If you really want to say Chewie is a ripoff of Chewie, then I don't know, go ahead. But that's stupid. The only character that's a ripoff has ever said that. And I really actually don't like BB-8. I think he's the dumbest, most useless character in the Star Wars franchise. Don't get me wrong, I know Star Wars is all about selling toys. I'm not stupid.
It's only about selling toys. I don't like it when it's so
obvious.
It's all about
you dumbass fucking space penguin. Furby looking ass. I think if R2-D2 took BB-8's place, the story would have been more interesting.
This is during the trailers. So the trailers have been released and the Pogs are already shipping because they released the Pog plushies way before the film. Like months and months and months before. So it's not after TLJ.
Also mentioned that this criticism that I have, it falls under category 3. I hope you're seeing my point. So let's get back to the story. Like I said, the similar plot structure.
Wait. We're saying that character is one of the most useless in Star Wars. That's not a nitpick.
Yeah, but
especially when it's a plot relevant character like BB-8.
But why is it nitpicking? I want to know why.
Yeah. Well, it's a main character, or not one of the main ones, like a plot important character. That is not a nitpick. That is quite big, especially when it's carrying the map to Luke Skywalker, which is the whole thing of the fucking story.
I want to know why, though. He can't just say it is or isn't and just leave it at that.
He just does that all the time. That's what he's known for.
He doesn't qualify anything. He doesn't qualify anything he says.
How is that any different?
You're following along. There's no Han, Leia, my point. You're just stupid. I don't like BB-8. BB-8 is represented by the Star Wars fans. You're all dumb, but I'm smart. That's what he does all the time.
How's that any different from like AT-AT Chan saying this is a great, awesome scene, and you're like, what? This is so amazing.
There are 37 shots.
Yeah, that's great. Here's Skids. BB-8 is the best character in the sequels. He does a lot of stuff.
No.
Low bar, and it's debatable.
Everybody knows it's Babu Frick.
Fuck you.
Is that the only good part of episode 9 is Babu Frick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. The other part is that
Luke Skywalker saying he was wrong, then a Jedi weapon deserves more respect. Objectively, the best part of that film, fight me.
The days.
Because it presents events with different context and emotional significance.
Wow, different context and emotional significance. Whoa.
But the events are the exact same fucking thing. It doesn't matter about the context. Out of the more galactic historical context, because the only difference is that they go to the cantina to sell the not sell the plans, but to try and get the plans smuggled.
They say when they introduce the Starkiller base at the Resistance home base, it's like, this is the Death Star, and then they bring up the hologram and it's like, and this is Starkiller base, and everyone gasps, and Han Solo goes,
swear they're completely different.
It's bigger. It's like, oh, is that's the difference? Is it? It's larger.
I think it's funny when how it should have ended the whole thing. We swear it's completely different.
A dumb idiot person would look at this scene and say, hey, this is a ripoff of the cantina scene. Well, let's look at the purpose of the cantina scene from A New Hope. Our heroes need to leave the planet and rescue a princess. They group up with new characters, and in this scene we also manage to learn a lot about these new characters. We learn that Han is smart, but we also find out that he's not afraid to get his hands dirty, and that he might be more morally gray than the primarily good characters that we've met so far.
And what
we
part
also
of it does it really establish
that we've
Han
gotten to know
being
is a fucking
smart?
badass.
Because it's just negotiation and Han brags it and talks shit.
And you've Cosmonauts completely overlooked the fact that they went to this cantina because it's known to be a watering hole for smugglers, which is exactly what they need to, obviously
smuggle them off the planet.
Yeah,
it's the exact same thing. Come on.
However, Han Solo's excuse to smuggle them to the Resistance is to meet Maz Kanata. They could have gone to her house. They could have met her on a spaceship, but no, they went down to the planet, and it just
They
so
could have contacted her. There's a thing called holograms and holotransmissions.
Say again. Sorry, you guys talked over each other. What did you say in voice?
Yeah, Shiny's dead rude and talks over me all the time.
What a terrible person.
No, that it just so happens that Maz Kanata runs a cantina. Even though Shiny was correct, they could have contacted her any other way or set up a meeting somewhere else.
Yes.
The cantina is sheer coincidence in The Force Awakens.
We've gotten to know is a fucking badass. Lastly, this scene is good for world building, but its primary goal is to get the characters together and start them on their journey. It ends on a relatively high note. Let's take a look at the
it doesn't really do much
scene in The Force Awakens.
I'm trying to think of the scene right now, and I don't remember much being said about the world, really. Like, cause they talk about Luke goes to the bar, they say something about droids are not welcome here. Like, there was the whole confrontation, and then they talk with Han about the Millennium Falcon. There's not much talking about the world. The world building it's there. Yeah, I'll agree it's in the film, but it's not really in this scene. Even when Cosmonaut is trying to be positive about a good film, if he's negative about a bad film, he somehow still manages to either be wrong or not explain himself correctly.
Castle scene in The Force Awakens and how its context makes it different. Our heroes have already met each other, but they need to meet with a third party to help them settle on their next course of action. This is not the primary goal of the scene, however, because whatever reason they have to go to the castle and meet with Maz Kanata is not what the scene is intended to focus on.
To get the plan / map to the rebellion / resistance.
Right. And it just so happens that the magical weapon in the bottom of the basement of the cantina calls out to Rey. That's the difference, okay? That's it. Lore-breaking information. That's great. Something you don't want to have in a story, whether you're paying homage or not, or whatever you call this repetition.
The low point in the story. In traditional story structure, this is where our heroes are tested. This is the middle of the movie.
This is not the low point of the story. What do you...
No.
Arguably, the low point is like 5 minutes later when 5 planets explode.
How is this the low point? This is like a crossroads. It's a very typical scenario in a story.
I thought like a lower point. Like, I don't even call it a low point because it's not even that much of a problem. I think a lower point in the film would have been Rey being captured.
Also,
even then, it's not a problem. So I'd have to call it a low point.
One issue is that there's no emotional investment in Hosnian Prime. It is just a planet. We don't know anybody from that planet.
People originally thought it was Coruscant.
Yeah, that's how like how much of non-world building there is. There is
it's only mentioned once. It's like the thing that blew up the Hosnian system.
Yeah.
So we see our heroes disagree with each other, split up, and even get defeated. Rey decides to ignore her destiny because she wants to go back to where she was. Finn ignores his destiny because he doesn't want to go back to
And then she just runs into the forest for no reason.
Finn has a destiny? What?
Yeah, what?
What? Rey has a
Go
destiny?
back a little bit. I have no idea what the hell he's talking about.
Because whatever reason they have to go to the castle and meet with Maz Kanata is not what the scene is intended to focus on. Instead, this scene brings our heroes to their low point in the story. In traditional story structure, this is where our heroes are tested. This is the middle of the movie.
Hold on a second. He said this is not what the scene is focused on, implying that, there is no relevance to it being a cantina. That's not any part of the scene that's necessary. It just happens to be it. He's literally just admitted, in a roundabout way, that it being a cantina is irrelevant to the scene. It just happens to be one, which proves my point about it being an artificial inclusion as a callback to A New Hope.
There you go.
I'm trying to understand what he means by a focus on. To me, a narrative focus means you're spending a lot of time on one particular element or one particular theme or whatever scenario you want to do in your story, which is fine. That's great. You want to focus on a certain thing to drive attention to it. Okay.
Yeah, but obviously the narrative focus for the cantina is it's necessary to the plot.
To talk to Maz to get some advice on how to smuggle this thing back to the Resistance. Yeah, but that's...
location resembles a place we've seen before.
Right.
For reasons.
For some reason, underneath a bar, Anakin's lightsaber from Bespin is, and that's a story for another time. She runs a cantina because in the original Star Wars, that's what they did. But there's no reason why Maz has to own a cantina. It could just be a fucking warehouse. It could be a store. It could be she runs a casino planet. It could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
Why a cantina? Just on the offhand. Well, because there are people there, but that goes against Cosmo's point, right? That it's relevant mechanically.
So we see our heroes disagree with each other, split up, and even get defeated. Rey decides to ignore her destiny
they aren't defeated. This BS. That's factually wrong.
So Rey has a destiny. Finn has a destiny. Everyone's got destinies. I didn't know about that.
Destiny.
Unity. Duty. Destiny.
You have a magical sword speaking to you in your head to go pick it up. You're like, what the hell is that wrong with me? I don't recall the narrative.
That'd be very odd.
I don't recall the narrative ever saying she had a destiny aside from Maz saying, this is probably something you should do with this object.
That's also not how the Force works. It'd be really useful for Luke to figure out the first time he touched the sword that his father was Darth Vader.
Yeah. And killed a bunch of kids with it.
Yep.
Go back to where she was. Finn ignores his destiny because he doesn't want to go back to where he was. The goal of this scene is to split
destiny?
Yeah. Finn
What's his destiny?
I don't know.
Why would his destiny be back at the First Order?
He wants to escape the First Order. Why? What?
That would be his destiny.
That's his whole goal, is to get the hell out of here.
Destiny.
I guess Rey wants to join with Han in his business. I think that's what she wants. Which just happens to involve smuggling that stuff to the Resistance, yeah.
This is whole kinds of stupid right now.
He's interpreting it very strangely, so I don't know why, but it's, yeah. Maybe I'm missing some points, but I'm sure he's getting a lot of this wrong.
Grows up, and it ends on a low note. This scene in A New Hope ends on a high note because it happens at the beginning of the movie when things are building up.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't end on a high note. They leave getting shot at. What are you talking about?
They're positively being shot at.
There was a peaceful shootout.
They were happy bullets because it happens in the middle of the movie after our heroes have triumphed more than once. The purpose of the scene is completely
all movies work
different.
this way,
What's happening here is completely different.
But where have they
I could go through every scene in this movie.
Where is the triumph other than they fly the Falcon? Rey closes a door at the right time on a tentacle monster that doesn't just kill Finn instantly after they just happen to be bump into Han Solo on his freighter outside Jakku, after they happen to bump into each other, after they happen to bump into BB-8, after the BB-8 just wanders into the desert, after the First Order just happened to come up after Poe arrives.
Well, missing the point slightly, Cosmonaut is saying that these scenes are different because one is a high note, one is a low note, so they are different scenes. It's like whether or not the ending to the actual, I'm trying to word this correctly in my head, whether or not the scenes serve a similar purpose. People talk about it being similar to A New Hope because of tertiary elements. They're going to a different planet to meet a strange elder wise person in a cantina so they can get smuggled to a different place. So there are too many parallels that can be drawn just from that whatsoever. If anything, the scenes being different in execution share, even if it was true that one is a high note, one is a low note, let's stick a pin in that and say, okay, fine. So why are there so many other tertiary elements that are the same? Doesn't that actually just prove even further that they added these things in irrelevant to the actual the actual goal of the scene? They've added in anyway.
The roles, the setting, the mechanics are all the same. The actual and the dramatic or emotional reaction might be different, but that's
right. Yeah.
Like fine. Your viewing experience is slightly different than the average person. That's fine. So, and he's going to say, "Oh, I could do this for every other scene in the movie. It's always going to be different." It's like, yes, I can nitpick the shit out of every scene, comparing it to A New Hope, and yet there will be differences. You're right. That's not what the argument is. We know they're different characters. We know they have different arms and appendages and brains and hair and all this other stuff. All these other details that aren't important. Mechanically, they're almost the same.
Yeah, you are correct in saying the scene is different because one of the characters is black this time, but
yeah. They're not called Luke. That's great. Thank you, Cosmo.
Movie and explain why they're different, but I think I've made my point. There are similar elements between these movies, yes, but they are presented with a different tone and significance, so I think it works. But I'd also like...
Okay, so...
Sorry, Smud, you go first. I need to articulate what I'm thinking.
Yeah, there are lists online if you guys want to compare the two movies of all the plot points, all the roles, all the elements that are extremely similar to the point of it just being a carbon copy. And I'm not going to list them all. There's dozens. There's probably more than a dozen if you pay attention. So for him to nitpick things and say, well, look, because I can nitpick, therefore they're not the same. Well, then we can say the exact same thing on the opposite. We can nitpick and say they are exactly the same. So where do you draw the line between homage and carbon copy? Where do you go? How far do you take this? How far is how big are your blinders on your goggles that you can't see what's in front of you? And it's not hard. People have made videos about this. One of the few videos he covered actually in the first part of his film or his video had a listing of every single one someone caught. So they are there. And he is unwilling to accept that similarity because they feel different. Drama is not the be-all, end-all of every story beat or every scene in a film.
Yeah. It's just this whole argument. This whole argument is, well, they're not the same because feelings, they feel different.
Yeah, tone is one thing.
They feel different.
Tone is, I would say the tone of episode 7 is a lot more diminished from episode 4, just on the grandeur, the scale, the way the music is working. Aside from, again, the first 15, 20 minutes where it's actually, Rey's theme, her lifestyle, that sort of stuff. That's original. That's like, oh, okay, this is new. I'm seeing where they're going with this. But when you look at the product as a whole, episode 4, the music really is cut very well. The action scenes, the shots, the crescendos, they're all very well done to make you interested in each shot as they cut between the hangar and the fight with Vader and Obi-Wan and back again. That works. And it's the most boring fight scene ever. He's just an old man swinging a stick against another dude in a black outfit. You're like, this is weird. But it works. And this one we get actually not a bad motivation by the nameless stormtrooper who whips out that weird stun baton thing. Or cattle prod.
Traitor!
And starts fighting Finn. It's like, that's kind of cool. I like that.
Too bad it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I know. But it's similar. Like, it's so obviously the same thing.
Like, if they had a moment where that guy was known and he knew who Finn was and stuff, and like they go way back or they were friends
in the same platoon or something, yeah.
This,
But again, Finn's rebellion is just like, oh, you're the guy. We have to stop you.
To address another idea, because I think it's only fair to try and see both sides of this argument. Some people out there might be saying, okay, yeah, The Force Awakens succeeds at being an homage, whatever. But I really would have preferred a new Star Wars story. What's wrong with making a new story? And yes, I fully agree with this. In a perfect world...
Okay, first off, you could have taken the exact thing that JJ did, carbon copy, and made it better. It's called improving upon the original, all right? He did not undo that, okay? He changed the gender. He changed the character here. He added new elements, this and that. But how are they better? This is why, if it was better, we go, wow, it's just like the original, only more, which is the idea of a sequel. You take what's good and you uplift it even higher. And all we saw was taking the elements, the plot points, some of the stuff in between, the characterization, even that's some similar stuff with Rey being, no personality and this and that, and didn't go far enough with it. Finn was more interesting. Poe was more interesting. Han gets killed because reasons. All these elements are there, and it's just like you didn't uplift anything, JJ. There are little bits of comedy here and there that are good, little bits of action, little musical numbers that are there, yes, but it's so far between what we're expecting to get that no, this is just nostalgia. This is a carbon copy nostalgia bait thing. And as my experience of my subjective interpretation would be deja vu, just because it was so reminiscent. I was there. I've done it all before. I've seen it all before. I've heard it all before. Oh, this time it's a female Luke. That's great. And then you throw in everything about the mystery of Rey, how she is the quintessential Mary Sue now. And she can do anything. She doesn't need anyone to help her. She can solve every problem. She's stronger than the bad guy of a mystical force she never even considered was real an hour ago. And now she's wielding it like she's the best ever. That's when the story really takes a bad turn. And if you want to say that's original, you're right. It's an originally... It's the most horrible thing you could have done in a story is create a Deus Ex Machina or a Mary Sue or a dream sequence. And they have a little bit of all those three things, mostly the Mary Sue, of course.
This movie would have been a completely new movie. However, I would like to posit the theory that that is not possible. I mean it. This idea was not possible in this scenario.
No.
Just because of the fact that Disney doesn't really work that way, guys. Disney was obviously not going to produce a wild and crazy new Star Wars story right off the bat. The last Star Wars movies didn't...
It was a physical impossibility to make something new. Because that's not how Disney works.
Can't we just go to Kasdan's episode 9 script? Who wrote episode 9 that didn't get published? Trevorrow? Look, read that. That's pretty wild. That's pretty original.
No, they didn't do that though. What are you saying? But like,
Colin Trevorrow was
I don't understand this idea that Disney doesn't do wild stuff. What was The Last Jedi? That was pretty wild and out there, or did they just not realize? Like, oh, this is totally normal. This is all woke. Woke is the new normal. We're being safe by being woke because everybody out there is on Twitter just like us.
Only they didn't. Only like Rise of Skywalker didn't really pull out the billions.
Pull out the big guns, Palpatine. Let's make this money. Oh wait, what's happening? Oh no.
What was
no one
the
wants to buy
return
my
value?
toys anymore.
What was the
one of the annoying parts of when people try to like bring up the money arguments with the sequels? They don't actually like they bring in how much the film's made, but not how much they cost to make, not the marketing costs and all that. How much it costs to do reshoots, etc., etc.
Or the merchandising, or any of the other things that come along. They're conveniently. Whenever look at this $1 billion right here. I'm like, yeah, but they now here we are in 2020.
Also, how much did they
hold on a second,
spend?
listen. They lost $8 billion or something because of this coronavirus thing. They essentially shut down for a year. So it's like all that money is gone. And what was funny is that people were saying, you guys, your goodwill and your fandom doesn't matter because look at all this money that they're making. Like, well, now that you don't have that money anymore, you also don't have the fans that could keep you going with goodwill. Goodwill was the thing that made you money in the first place. Now you don't have that.
You also have Disney, which paid a lot to get the Star Wars franchise. It's nowhere near the amount that Star Wars was actually worth because George Lucas.
$4 billion.
Yeah, so you've got to take into account. You have to take that into account when you're also calculating how much the films cost to make, how much they this, that, and the other. There's a lot of money to take into, not just how much they made, because again, costs and everything, marketing.
So apparently, it's grossed over. Done?
How much they paid people to give positive reviews.
Well,
by giving them red carpets.
You guys are getting paid for this?
Yeah,
I would do that. I want to chill. You guys are just wrong. Smud Boy and the Smudcast are stupid because it's a space wizard for space children.
So it grossed over 1.3 billion worldwide. So I don't know if that's good. I don't know how much they spent on marketing. I don't know how much they spent on production.
Rule of thumb is double the budget of the movie is marketing.
I wonder if there was less budget spent than Last Jedi. That's what I'm curious about. Anyway.
The last Star Wars movies didn't really leave a good taste in society's mouth. Say what you want about Disney, but they're good at getting people in the theater. They usually play it safe first. They'll experiment a little bit, but not a lot. Disney likes to test the waters before they dive in and make something crazy and bold. I also would have loved a completely original movie, but I knew what I was getting into. If you look at the original concepts for this movie, how the original script was based around Luke's severed hand and how Kylo Ren was basically this weird cyborg that hunted Force artifacts, yeah, that shit would have been wild.
Would have been better.
I probably would have liked that a lot. But they rewrote the script because it might have been a little too weird for regular people. That's okay. This movie doesn't need to be revolutionary. You can't plan that sort of thing. So I would.
You can plan everything, especially a movie, especially a story.
Plan anything.
It kind of could have been revolutionary, and people would have been like, "Oh shit, Star Wars is back!" And it's like nothing we've ever seen before.
Yeah.
People
would have reacted. People would have reacted the exact same fucking way because it was a Star Wars film. You do realize that the initial reaction to Phantom Menace, like there is a lot of people that walked out the theater saying, "Oh my god, that's amazing!"
Yeah, I'm gonna see it a million more times.
Yeah, and then they actually slowly over time actually realized, "Oh no, wait, that's actually pretty poor."
I'm not sure if Cosmonaut understands this because he's him, but something by virtue of being different and or the same is not enough praise within itself.
It needs to have some
It
sort
played it safe, clap, or it did something different, clap. You can't have both of these things. It's entirely down to the execution, not what was done, or rather,
the idea.
The idea that was done. Yeah.
I applauded it.
Also, it's. You can't excuse lack of quality. Like, this is an excuse. Oh, they couldn't do anything else. That doesn't... it's still there. The problem is still there if they couldn't do it. It's just there's a reason behind why it's happening, but you can't say that, well, the problem isn't there. It doesn't invalidate that it is a problem.
Say overall, this whole complaint about The Force Awakens being a carbon copy of A New Hope falls under category 3. Yeah, you're right, but it works. So get over it. Part 2, bad movies.
You're right,
really
but it
grinds
works.
my gears is when people
How?
say The Force Awakens.
You're
So
right that
it's
it's a
good.
copy, but it works, and that's how they intended
It's a
to
good
do it.
thing, guys. Now, I can actually agree with that if what was working was good. I mean, I can copy the Mona Lisa. I can copy this or that. And if I do a better job, then great. But I don't think we could say...
Even then, you'd be aping a lot of the qualities of what you're doing would be aped off something else. So are they really deserved for your film?
That's fine. But because they own the franchise, they're allowed to do that to themselves. I don't care. But, if it was like someone else, that'd be plagiarism, right? So JJ had these tools. He had all the lore to play with. And he just copied it and didn't make it better. That's the argument. It's good.
Even if you did make it better, what's the point in telling the exact same story again? And because the analogy I would use is, say for example, you copy someone's maths homework, but you do it better. Everything you've done is not deserved still because you've just taken it from someone else. Yes, you've added a few extra qualities. I'll give you that. But that doesn't mean the qualities that you took away from someone is something you deserve and is attributed to you.
Right. This is why I liked his analogy with the food of, taking whatever, habanero or pop or whatever those things were. It's like, yeah, a good chef will look at these ingredients, look at the volumes and go, okay, I know exactly what to do to make this different and better, yet still retain the same ideas or principles of what the point of these poppers are. So instead of using habanero, he'll use Scotch bonnet or whatever. Like he'll change the spices around. He'll fry it for a different time. He'll elevate the cooking in a different way. That's what we want from stories. If you're going to copy, take the best elements and then uplift them. You don't throw in Mary Sue's. You don't throw in repetitive nostalgia for the sake of it. You don't copy the thing beat by beat.
If you're just copying constantly, then doesn't it just become stale?
Yes, that's one of the problems. Being unoriginal makes it stale by virtue. But you want to have similarity and say, okay, Star Wars has XYZ. I'm going to do XYZ, but I'm going to uplift it. I'm going to have really good fighting choreography. I'm going to have really good starship designs, really good starship fights.
Yeah, I really can't give up to the idea that I don't think it's deserved if you're copying from someone else. I really don't, because you're just taking someone else's work and someone else's qualities.
Great artists copy
yourself.
Greater artists steal.
It's the meme of you made this, I made this, and then you tack on a couple things.
That
and
is the principle of every single business model out there. What do they sell? Hot dogs. I can do sausages. I can do Wiener Schnitzels. I can do this or that.
But there's a difference between a product in terms of selling food, because of it doesn't matter when you come to food if this hot dog's the same as that hot dog. You're thinking about, okay, which one's cheaper, which one tastes better, blah 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 blah. But when it comes to films and creative endeavors, they're kind of different into the rules at play, because no one cares if you took a hot dog recipe from someone else. But if you actively take, I'll say hot dog, fuck it, I don't know, that's a very poor analogy, but I'm trying to make the point of it's different.
Main difference with a lot of hot dogs is the sauce that's used.
I don't think in this case a food analogy works, because there's a difference between an creative endeavor and something which we enjoy because it is a narrative experience.
I would say they're exactly the same, really. You're talking about making something. It doesn't matter if it's food for your mouth or food for your eyes or your ears. It's the same idea.
Okay, so in this analogy, if someone's made a hot dog, the person eating the hot dog only cares about how it tastes. But when you're actively making a film which is exactly the same as another film, like, people enjoy films different to when they eat something.
Sure, but
it's like, obviously you can eat chocolate over and over, just off now and again, and different brands, and it'll relatively be the same. But when it comes to films, each film usually has to be unique. I know they take elements from other things. You can't have anything that's completely original. But I know you make a lot of food analogies which often do work in terms of the how you consume it. But when you're talking specifically about corporate products,
I don't see.
It's different. It's a creative devil.
I don't see a movie as a corporate product per se, as if we know that Marvel is a corporate
that's
product.
Exactly what hot dogs do. They take something else from someone else and they do it better.
Yeah, it's the same idea. That's why I don't care about the scale or the size. The analogy you had with chocolate was like, look at Nestle and then look at Lindt. Why is Lindt a higher grade quality?
A better analogy would be looking at something like Star Trek and the Orville. They make the Orville. But in the Orville, it's different in terms of its narrative structure. When you look at things like TNG, it's not just aping the storytelling completely 100%.
Yeah, the Orville takes the premise of Star Trek.
It's taking the premise and the idea.
Yes.
So it is like saying one company makes a hot dog, another company makes another hot dog, but it's not taking the story beats. It's not one for one copying.
No, you're right. It's its own creation. It has a different genre. Obviously, it's appealing to a different audience, but it's also getting the same audience from Star Trek and watching, hey, look, a lighthearted Star Trek show. Cool. That can work too. So that's in that idea, you're taking a chocolate hot dog or something like that. And you're saying, hey, I can combine these two elements because I know chocolate and I know hot dogs and I can sell this and I know all the excellent parts of pork and cocoa butter and what have you. So that can work too. The difference is J.J. Abrams wasn't a very good copier. His forgery was incomplete. He put in elements that shouldn't be there.
Trying to get back to the original point, I really don't think that if he did just copy everything one for one and he made improvements, that would be a good thing to do.
Well, it's the same idea of what happened with episode 7. You had this great experience when you left the theater. Like, hey, that was kind of good.
That may as well just be a reboot then, a hard reboot.
You can characterize it any way or categorize it any way you like. It doesn't really matter.
Well, if you're copying the story beats one for one and you're just adding more action, more spaceships, more scale.
If you do it, not more, better. What if it was better? Okay. What if Luke was, or our Luke this, or Luke Ersatz was even more, had even more faults. He was more impulsive. He was more this and that. You could relate to him more. He was, he lost his entire fortune, his family, everything, all his friends. I don't know. Go crazy with tragedy. Really amp up the emotions. You can do that.
Yeah, that would work.
But then you actively have another Death Star, you actively have another cantina, you actively just follow the exact same story.
Exactly.
No, see, how would you make it better? It would better. That's what Smud is saying. Is that like he's, what if Luke wasn't a desert dweller? He was actually like the son of somebody who was a shipbuilder or something like that. That would be a different.
And then
story.
that would actively be changing it and not being a copy. Then that would make
doing different. The same things better.
Yeah.
The idea of a guy who maybe like what elements that you're copying and what you're changing in the context are very narrow.
Force Awakens, which apes a lot of plot points.
Yes, it does.
The question I will ask is based on that description. If I was to recreate A New Hope entirely from scratch and just did the entire film again, but I cut out or we made sure no one hit their head off a door as a stormtrooper when going down a corridor, have I, by definition, made a better version of A New Hope? Because I've recreated the film but not included that mistake.
I don't think it's physically possible to do.
Yes, if you remove errors from cinematography or acting, yes, that would be a better film.
No, but you're actively copying someone else's homework.
You can copy.
How could you make the same movie with the same actors from 1977?
Oh no, but those would be different actors just doing the exact same things. You're saying the exact same words, etc.
I'm talking hypothetically, yeah.
Yeah, if you could remove the errors from a film, then yes, it would be a better product, obviously.
No, but it's just copying something else, and that's the problem.
I'm not talking about taking the existing film and removing errors. I'm saying taking the film and doing it again with new special effects, new actors, and what have you. And then I just made sure I edited out that one mistake.
On the first viewing, as we have the same, some people, as Cosmonaut was saying, when they exit the theater, they go, that was really good. That was amazing. It was awesome. Same experience I had playing Mass Effect 2 for the first time. Then I stopped and thought about it and said, wait a second, that was exactly the same as what I had. except there was maybe one thing I can't remember that wasn't there that made me whatever flinch at that, headbanging scene. So it would be objectively better, but the same problem would arise because it's like, oh, this is a huge callback. And wait a second, it's more than a callback. It's a carbon copy. And then you start analyzing all of that, and then you realize it is identical.
But are stolen qualities really deserved? If the only reason your film is good is because you took things from someone else.
If you own the franchise, I don't see a problem.
But then you're just doing another entry, which is doing the exact same thing.
Well, if it's episode 7 and it's doing the exact same thing, it's not good.
It's
got to continue.
I think the point is whether or not you like the fact it's a complete one-for-one copy is the subjective part. However, if you've taken the same film that had let's say in this quality, it's like of standard quality, you took the film and you did it again and it still had standard quality, that the quality has stayed the same. Whether or not you like the fact it is the same film again and feel cheated is down to you as an individual.
Yeah, that's why I say look at stories from 100 years ago, the romances, the detective stories, even from the past 20 years of police procedurals. You're really telling the same story of authority versus criminals and how it's presented.
Yeah, and obviously the question is, have you earned your version of the film being that quality? Probably not, no, but the film still has that quality.
I don't really care if an artist steals 100%. And obviously the execution is not going to be 100% of the copy. But if they take a great film or a great book, in any genre really, and they elevate it, that's what we want.
But as a sequel, specifically in the context of episode 7, as a sequel.
If that's an interesting question. If the definition of the franchise...
Lord of the Rings, so let's say the sequel to Lord of the Rings is just doing the Lord of the Rings again.
Yeah,
with
exactly.
a new cast.
With The Hobbit, if you look at The Hobbit and look at the Lord of the Rings, they're very similar structurally. One's a lot smaller and tighter, I would say, The Hobbit, but they're effectively the same story. There's a dragon involved. You have to go here.
Oh, but the plot point and the goal of the characters, the different characters in the thing. So it's not just the same story.
No. Obviously,
it's different stories.
Tolkien had more time to tell his kids a different story and fleshed it out.
I'm saying theoretically, if you had the sequel to Lord of the Rings was doing the Lord of the Rings again, that I don't think that would work, because even if they do it better without all the mistakes, without this, that, and the other.
What if it's 100 years from now? What if it's beyond, like, someone who never saw Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, but wait a minute. So let's not do Lord of the Rings. Just episode 7 of Star Wars.
Sure.
Episode 7 of Star Wars can't be the same thing as Luke doing the same thing over and over again. But what you mean by doing the same story is contingent on what elements of the story are one-to-one. So if there's a moment that's exactly the same as, like, oh, they're on Tatooine and then Luke looks up and then our character looks up, it's not going to be very good. But if it's the same setup and you justify it, then it makes sense.
It's never going to...
Looking at a sunset isn't unique necessarily.
Yeah, the copy is never going to be 100%. You can get very close. You're going to have better tech. You're going to have better actors, better this or that. It's never going to get there. That's why when artists steal, they steal things because they work well. And then they're going to do their own thing because they're
stealing and using the same mechanics is a big difference.
So you're talking about how George Lucas, when he made New Hope, he took this element from that story. He said, okay, I want to take this, that, and the other, and taking elements to create something new. Whereas that's different to someone else just completely making the same thing again.
Sure, but the reason why I'm arguing this is because you need a definition for what Star Wars is. And if you don't have one, you're just going to copy. So to the average person, Star Wars is episode 4. That's when I think of it. It's like, that's when I think of Luke on, moisture farming and what have you. That's, to me, Star Wars. And there's other elements that I could characterize, like, Luke doing a certain thing, which he does in all his films, or the X-Wings, or R2-D2. Those are elements of Star Wars. And for whatever reason, R2-D2 and C-3PO are almost all the films, I think. So those are elements that I would say to make a Star Wars film, it would need all those things. If you don't have a criteria, then you just copy what's there. You just take the mold and go, okay, here's Star Wars, here's the mold. boom, obviously it's not going to be a perfect 1-to-1. You know, your cake mold's not going to be exact. You're going to get the flour mixture off. The water's going to be too much, whatever. But then you test that mold over and over again until you get it better. And that's pretty much what businesses do when they compete. Where you look at the beer industry, look at Japan, look at South Korea, Belgium. They go crazy over beer. Everyone makes beer there. So they're always refining. They're taking the basic formula that's 200, 300 years old, and they're tweaking it. They're twisting it, trying these hops, trying this wheat barley. Maybe they're smoking it in cedar or something. And they're always trying to improve upon it. That's what I mean by uplifting. That's when you see those cooking shows that Cosmonaut was talking about. It's like deconstructions and chicken 3-ways or deconstructed chicken soup. You know, you know what chicken soup should taste like, but it has different texture now. And now there's more of it. Or now there's 3 different flavors of chicken. Maybe there's free range fried chicken and whatever. So that is what we talk about, stealing and then transforming. If you were arguing for doing a carbon copy, yes, that would objectively be better without the flaws, but then the rest of your brain would kick in and you go, wait, this is exactly the same. And the argument I was trying to say is if it's 100 years from now, no one's going to care. Because
But the whole contention that Shiny was making, I think, is important, is that sequentially in a series, you want to make something that is episode 7, you'd have to advance the story. So you can't just remake episode 4
would have to be a continuation.
and make it episode 7. That's the problem. It has to be its own unique thing. But if you made the same story of episode 4 for a new character, but it was different aesthetics, it was different, slightly different setup. Like instead of, like I said, being poor on Tatooine, being rich on Coruscant, but it's still the Luke idea of the character that works,
right?
Because there's slight distinctions.
Exactly.
It's all about what the actual distinction is.
That would have been fine, because we would have seen that in Rey. Rey is the Luke archetype, but she hates droids or whatever, or she loves droids. Whatever. It would give one difference. It doesn't really make it really doesn't matter. Make it cosmetic. I don't care. But if you take the elements that make Luke, and you put him into a new character, a new actress, a new face, new dialogue, new scenarios, same plot points, same plot beat or story beats, it'll be fun.
I'm trying to stay really quiet because I don't want to keep continuing this on. But if you're doing a sequel, then it has to be a sequel, and it can't just be the repeat of the same story. Because
look, you're arguing about mechanics. You're not defining what it is that's changing and different. If you do a carbon copy, it won't work because it doesn't make any sense because it's episode 7. But if you do a carbon copy of all of the plot points, but the aesthetics are different, the characters are different, and they are slightly different in status, then you can work with that.
Right. It tastes
That's
like
the kind
chicken.
of remixing that actually
it
works.
Looks like lettuce. It's like, oh, I've never had Star Wars that way before, even though it tastes exactly the same.
You can have the same story of Luke Skywalker over and over again in the Star Wars thing, but what are the distinctions? It can't be Tatooine again.
Yeah.
He can't be a moisture farmer again.
And that's why
distinction. But
then the more you get away from it, it stops being a carbon copy.
Yeah, that's.
And then it's no longer a carbon copy.
And this is why there's no intelligence behind JJ's effort when he was writing that. Remember those books he had, those big red books that no one could copy or whatever. It was all hush hush.
Right.
What was he really
writing? What I'm enumerating on is that there are 2 separate points being made here. One is that if you're making episode 7, you can make a copy of a previous thing in the series, but it has to follow. And then number 2, you could potentially make a carbon copy of a movie and make it a better movie. You redid stuff, but it's not going to be the same. I postulate that it's literally impossible to remake a movie.
I would agree that making a movie, it's called making a movie. It's not copying a movie. So you have to go through all the process of hiring people and doing all the complicated things. So that's why I say that's what end up happening with episode 7. JJ had that red book. He started writing, saying, what happened in episode 4? Okay, this happened, and then this happened, and this happened. And he crossed out names, puts in actors and scenes. Okay, instead of the old man being Obi-Wan, it's going to be Han. And he just keeps going. And that's it. That's as complicated as it got. And it worked for the average viewer. who saw this and went, that was fun. It had the Millennium Falcon. There was a new droid, lightsabers, done, works. But we all know, because of the carbon copy nature of the thing, it was a waste of effort. And then you throw in the bad elements, which JJ wasn't aware of because he doesn't care, which is the Mary Sue.
I think that the changes
plot or the nonsensical plot.
I think that the changes that were made are not the changes that were needed to differentiate it enough from the original story. So it's too close as a copy, and the things that are different are different in the wrong way. So it creates an inferior product while also not being a good follow-up to what was before. So it fails on all the fronts that it's trying to hit on, except nostalgia bait.
Yeah.
Which is what it's for.
Pretty much. I mean, that's what it comes down to. You feel, oh, yeah, Millennium Falcon, I know those feelings. Oh, there's Han again. Oh, there's Chewbacca again. And you just go with that as a kid or as an adult because you know what this means. And you work with that. Same thing with episode 9, only in the most bizarre, convoluted way. And we're at 3 hours, guys. I don't know if you want to keep on going. I know Voice has to go to bed. And I think Shiny should learn from Voice once in a while.
Well, I have to go to uni for another 22 days. So I've got plenty of time to reset my sleep schedule.
All right. But we can make this a 2-parter. I'm okay with that because this is a lot to go through. And I think Cosmonaut makes a lot of mistakes.
We want to do the lower decks.
Yeah, we can do that tomorrow. Again. That's fine. We can do the rest of this on Saturday or Sunday if you guys want.
Okay with that.
All right. 3 hours, guys. Good jobs. Lots of talks. Well, thanks for tuning in. We always appreciate your time and effort. And Glib, nice to see you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, always appreciate you guys. So yeah, we'll talk to you guys real soon. I don't know when, but definitely the weekend. And cool. I guess tomorrow, hopefully, Shiny and myself with LiteratureDevil and whoever else wants to join, be watching the 4th episode of Lower Decks on Shiny's channel.
Do you think this is going to be better? Do you think it's going to be worse?
I have no idea.
It's probably just going to be more of the same slot.
I'm willing to bet that because obviously the episode 3 has been the best it's been so far. That's not saying much. It's still crap. But it's like the better of the crap. So it's gone from bad to worse to the best it's been so far, but still bad. The only way I can really see it going is going back down to worse.
It's possible. I don't know. I have no expectations for this show. So I don't like the art style. I don't like the comedy. I don't know anything about the comedy or the art style because apparently it's based off Rick and Morty. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll talk to you real soon. Have yourself a great evening.